This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 2, Star-Spangled Man.
And how's the tour been? I know they did a big rollout for you, right?
It's the greatest honor of my life. But I'm just a little shocked, I think. How did a guy like me end up here?
Oh, wait. A guy like me, somebody's being a bit too humble. For those of you who aren't familiar with John's resume, John Walker, first person in American history to receive 3 Medals of Honor, ran RS-1 missions in counterterrorism and hostage rescue. The government did a study of your body at MIT, and you tested off the charts in every measurable category: speed, endurance, intelligence.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not Tony Stark. I'm not Dr. Banner. Okay, I don't have the flashiest gadgets. I don't have super strength. But what I do have is guts. Something Captain America always had, always needs to have, and I'm going to need every ounce of it.
I hear a lot of people saying the blues, but I'm going to tell you what the blues is. When you ain't got no money, you got the blues.
Guten Tag, fellow Defenders. Yes, this is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Episode 2, Star-Spangled Man of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I am one of your Star-Spangled hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
I'm running onto the field, signing all the autographs, and then high-fiving everyone on the way. I am Chris.
Excellent. Full team back in the hot seat for the second episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yes, we unfortunately lost John for our beginning kickoff coverage of Invincible. Mm-hmm. If you have not checked it out, it is the Amazon Prime exclusive cartoon based on Robert Kirkman's comic book. Mm-hmm. It is gory, it is bloody, it is beautiful. If you would love to check it out. It's obviously on our feed where you're listening to this, hopefully, but also over on our boys' feed as well.
Absolutely.
So best thing we can say is head on over to tvpodcastindustry.com where you can get all of our podcasts and check them out.
Absolutely. Did you not know that we were covering Invincible on our podcast? We didn't know last week we were going to be covering Invincible on our podcast, so that's why we haven't told you that we were doing it. We made a bit of a last minute decision to cover the first 3 episodes of Invincible, just myself and Chris, because John was on well, at least in the time zone of the other side of the world. So we decided that we'd do something else.
So I'm sorry to have missed that, because I've enjoyed watching the 3 episodes so far of Invincible. Yeah, really good. Yeah. And of course, in the spirit of Robert Kirkman, nice and bloody.
Yes, it
as
is.
well.
Yes, it is.
Nice and, yes, on the edge, shall we say.
Definitely. A lot more adult than a lot of the shows we cover on our main podcast feed.
But alas, I was on Australian time, and so was, I think, fast asleep on the sofa as these 2 guys were doing the first 3 episodes of Invincible. Yes, epic session. Mm-hmm. But we're on to another epic session, fellow Defenders, with our spoiler-filled discussion about Episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, though, and before Derek, the host with the mostest, goes through the episode details, just remember you can pop on over to our website at TV Podcast Industries to leave feedback. You can subscribe to us there, and of course, all your feedback will be discussed in our feedback section as well. We also have email at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And of course, we've also put up our spoiler posts over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries.
Yes, we have kind of an epic feedback section coming up at the end of the podcast. We recorded our original Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 1 podcast a little bit before the show came out, so we didn't have any feedback in time, but you all have made up for it, our wonderful fellow Defenders. Lots and lots to talk about when we get into our feedback section.
Yes, thank you so much for the feedback. I love reading it. As I've said before, I'm a lurker in the Facebook group and a liker, but not a commenter. Yes. That's kind of my life. I lurk, I like, I don't comment, and I disappear like a ghost. Speaking of disappearing like a ghost, I'm not quite sure how that was the best segue, but let's discuss this episode. So Derek, do you want to give us the episode details for episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Absolutely. Once again, this episode directed by Kari Skogland. She directed the first 2 episodes of the show. I'm not sure whether she's getting the full directing credits for every episode this season, like Matt Jacklin did over on WandaVision. I know she's centrally involved in certainly the setup of the show, but we'll see as the episodes go on whether she has all the directing credits, but heavily involved in the style of the show, which is very cool. The episode was written by Michael Kastelein. He was a staff writer on the TV show Truth Be Told with Octavia Spencer, 2019, coming into this show. So, pretty good credit there. But first time writer in a Marvel TV show. John, would you like to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sicker. John Walker, the new Captain America, alongside his partner Lamar Hoskins, aka Battlestar, grapples with his new identity and role as he is introduced to America. Meanwhile, Bucky confronts Sam about giving up the shield as he joins him on a mission to Germany to investigate the Flagsmashers and their super soldier strength. Are they androids, aliens, or wizards? Tracking 2 trucks filled with stolen supplies, Falcon and the Winter Soldier come up against the super strength and determination of Karli Morgenthau and her breakaway group of Flagsmashers. Help arrives as Captain America and Battlestar join the fray, but Bucky and Sam are far from grateful for the assistance. Flying back to America, there is still tension as Bucky still wants to understand why Sam relinquished the shield that was entrusted to him by Steve, and they detour to Baltimore where Sam is introduced to Isaiah Bradley, another hero super soldier whose fortunes fared far worse than Steve Rogers. Upset and angry, Isaiah throws them both out of his home, and immediately Bucky is arrested for missing his parole. Bailed by John Walker, Sam and Bucky are forced into a joint therapy session where miracle questions, some touching knees, bromance, and soul-gazing bring some level of understanding between them. Outside the police station, Sam and Bucky refuse John Walker's offer to team up and attempt at reconciliation. Now as free agents, they plan to find out more about the Flagsmashers and contact their former adversary, Baron Zemo. Meanwhile, back in Germany, Karli and her group frantically load their supplies onto a plane as they manage to escape from being caught by Power Broker's men.
I'm really disappointed, John.
Oh no.
I tasked John to put together his synopsis to the theme tune of Star-Spangled Man, and he didn't do it. I'm really disappointed, John.
I'm not.
I want to hear you literally do it in the tune of...
It could just be put behind my written synopsis.
No, see, if you're going to do it, you need to go kind of like John Walker, the new Captain America, alongside his partner, Lamar Hoskins, aka Battlestar, grapples with his new identity.
I've seriously not had enough coffee to be that engaged with this.
I see.
But that's what it was. That was one of the reasons I loved that 50s style, and like essentially in Captain America: The First Avenger, when they had that, it was all like everything was poppy and and he gave Hitler the old 1-2. Mm-hmm. He's behind you.
It was like the Pathé Films voice from the war, basically the one that was always used by the received pronunciation of a war correspondent. So maybe we'll get you to re-record that, John, with that on.
Yeah, I'm really not a poet. I can't put words to music.
You're a poet and you don't know it.
Oh my goodness.
That's terrible. Right, let's get into our bullet points. Bullet point number 1. Speaking of the Star-Spangled Man, we get a better introduction to our new Star-Spangled Man himself, John Walker. This is really necessary. Wow, this week all I have seen are memes and anger on the internet about our new Captain America and people really hating him for, 2.5 seconds of screen time last week? Nobody likes this character. Of course they don't, because you don't know him. And I do think it's intentional. If you're going to go from Steve Rogers to any of our characters, to anybody else taking over as Captain America, it's going to be a big jump for everybody to take, right? So you put someone in between old Captain America and the real new Captain America to take all that hate is what I think they do. So it's like, okay, right, you're going to hate him anyway, so we'll just stick in this guy, John Walker. You're going to hate him. Grand, he'll give up the shield at some point and somebody else will take over. It'll be fine. And you'll be much happier with the new Captain America.
I really can't wait till he comes out as being Hydra. Then it will just be every computer will just melt into a ball of plastic and metal as everything just melts down.
Well, the one thing I'll say about John Walker, let's talk about it a bit, the introduction of him here. The one thing I'll say, we've had this constant argument, myself, Chris and John, if you've been listening to us for a long time, back to the Civil War conversation that we had about who was right. Is it Captain America? Is it Tony Stark, about which position to take on the Sokovia Accords and where they land? And I've always said that Captain America is the symbol. He's the belief in a just system, but he's not part of the government. He's not just going by the orders of the government and America. In that way, he believes in a certain system to go by, a system of rules that he has to go by. In John Walker, what they've introduced here is a government-controlled Captain America, someone who has the power of the government, someone who works for the government. So here, I think this is the Captain America that you guys think I was talking about. So I think these are two very distinct characters. Steve Rogers being a person that has his own beliefs, his own moral code, and John Walker here, a former armor captain who gets the prestige of working for the government as the new Captain America.
I think, simply put, Iron Man's philosophy is won out. So hooray. He is government owned. I mean, yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. And, it is real, that distinction. You know, he talks about we're government. He talks about, Bucky as an important asset, to the government. Mm-hmm. He's carrying the gun, you know, in the battle that he joins, Sam and, Bucky in on top of the trucks. Mm-hmm. He talks all about the handshaking, the senator meetings, all this, PR, and just that behind the scenes work, which I guess Steve Rogers would have just probably not been able to entertain, the subtlety of politics.
Well, initially he fell into that when he got the super soldier serum back in Captain America, the First Avenger. That's all he was doing, was going around the country, encouraging people to invest in bonds for people in the war and not actually fighting in the war. So he had the other side of it. He wasn't able to do it at all. So we do actually hear from John Walker going, I just want to do the job, but all they keep doing is pushing me on this tour over and over again. But they do make reference to the fact that they have had a mission a couple of weeks beforehand. They went on a special ops mission, and now he's on these tours going around. And he does go into a couple of missions in this episode. So he does have both sides of it. But that's kind of because of the path paved by Steve Rogers. By the way, when I'm editing this episode, I'm absolutely going to continually play the section of the episode where you just said you were totally right there, because that doesn't happen very often.
Well, yeah, well, but it is that distinction. But I think actually this is really fantastic from the show, having immediately going into the locker room where John Walker had been to high school, and the whole kind of morning TV extravaganza that he's doing at the football pitch. But what I really like here is you see, you know, the expectation that he feels from the role, but also from the legacy of Steve Rogers. And I think you get the sense that he's got good intentions here. Yeah. And it's the idea that he doesn't want to fail everyone. I mean, he says, everyone in the world expects me to be something. And it you know, just that level of expectation. And I think this is really important for this character, because you have that, you know, you have that introduction and then end credits in episode 1. I really like this. I think in general, this felt like getting more intimate and more personal with some of the key characters in this episode compared to the first episode, which was just kind of a big action reintroduction of the characters and, you know, filling in some personal gaps. This is both John Walker coming together with his effectively sidekick in Lamar Hoskins, and also having Sam and Bucky, you know, finally coming together and meeting and everything playing out. So I felt it really kind of focused in intimately, as well as keeping the action. So I thought this was really good. And we see his wife there as well. Yeah. In the locker room.
Interestingly, not called his wife, and he's not wearing a wedding ring. They don't call out her name or anything like that, but we know she has the same surname as Walker from the credits. We know that it must be his wife, that they went to high school together, that, the kind of standard, I suppose, high school sweethearts, grew up together, and now, they're together post-war. But I wonder if that's a little bit of the PR thing, that he's not supposed to say that he has a wife. It's not really called out in the episode, but I wonder if that's part of it, that she's kind of being hidden from public view as the wife of Captain America.
Well, and to protect her, I guess.
Potentially protect her, yeah.
He's not a great person. So, this is me I'm going into speculation mode, okay? So, the whole thing about John Walker is, as you perfectly pulled out, is they set him up and they PR spin him.
Yeah.
He is the first man ever to receive 3 Medal of Valor. He did, counterterrorism and espionage and hostage rescue. Like, they constantly call out all these amazing things, right? And it's in that very last scene when he is with Bucky and he's with Lamar and he's with Sam. And he essentially goes, "Stay out of our way, man."
Yeah,
absolutely.
And his demeanor just shifts.
Yeah. It's
and
that
he goes
turn.
from that, exactly. He goes from that nice person to this thing. Like, when I had my second rewatch of the episode, I basically was looking at it, and I was looking at it through that new lens, whereas it's all PR.
Yeah.
This whole thing of him, the Good Morning America, his PR tour of his, like, meeting all the people coming out, like, that's his good image. You don't get that high in the military being a super, super nice person. Like, that's the thing. And the best example is Bucky going, "Have you jumped on a grenade?" "Oh yeah, I've done it multiple times. I take my hat off and
it's
I
kind of my
on."
thing.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And you're like, okay, so he's not. No, he's doing it as a test. Like, it's not. It's all fiction.
I don't know whether it's all fiction, but I think I'm absolutely with you. The mask, in a sense, slips when they refuse his offer at teaming up, and I guess in some ways reconciliation from their Jeep journey, where he's trying to engage with them. And up to that point, you feel like, because of that introduction in the locker room, you kind of feel his intentions are right. And then effectively by being snubbed by Bucky and Sam, there's this real kind of sense of competition comes in. And I guess, he was a football player. He's been in the army, army and football. I guess it is all about competition. Who is the best? Who's going to win? So it's stay out of my way. And he kind of gives the death stare really at them as they're walking away. So I definitely agree with you. I think, whether it means he's evil or that kind of thing, I just guess now it's about a rivalry rather than being a team in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say I love that line from the car ride between when the 4 of them are talking, and you see John Walker kind of trying to encourage Falcon and Bucky along as his sidekicks or his wingmen. It's like, no, hey, hang on a second. That's not going to work. But I love the reaction from Bucky with when Lamar Hoskins introduces himself with his name as Battlestar. And Bucky's like, "Stop the car. I'm out. I'm done. No more of this stuff." Really good fun. Yeah. One of the touch I love about this is the presentation that's going on at Good Morning America, where it's on TV around the country. It cuts to Bucky in his home, and just in the background, you can see he's just dropped his coat on the floor, clearly walking into the house and just going, "What the hell is this guy doing here?" It's just a lovely touch showing how the reaction of Bucky, that there's somebody else trying to take on this mantle of Captain America. And what he hears in the speech or this conversation between John Walker and the presenter on Good Morning America, he hears John Walker being asked the question, "Well, did you know Captain America?" And he's like, "Well, I felt like I knew him. I followed his career really closely. We would have been like brothers if we did know each other." And Bucky's like, "Hang on a second. Who's this other person claiming my position effectively? My friendship with Steve goes back 80 years. And this pretender is coming in, trying to get validation, trying to get that PR spin that Steve Rogers would have picked me had he known me," kind of thing. yet he knows nothing about Steve Rogers. So that's the kind of bit that you're going, he does seem like a very competent soldier, exactly the person that would be given the shield by the American army if they had it available to them. He's exactly the person that the government would choose to follow their orders, which Steve never did. Steve walked away from the government when they started to make those changes and started to force him into those rules that they had because they were anti his beliefs. So this is not someone that fits the mold of Steve Rogers. Yeah. This is someone that can carry the shield and do the fighting. That scene where you see the file footage of him throwing the shield at the targets is fantastic.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I was going to say, he has serious skills with the shield. He can throw it like Steve Rogers, from what I can see. I mean, even the save on Battlestar, that's
pretty cool.
Precision throwing in my mind. Yeah. So he's got that. I guess it's just, as you say, he's military based. He's come up through those ranks. I mean, Steve Rogers effectively hadn't really been in the military. He'd only just joined up, and it was a conscription. He's a professional soldier that's worked his way up all these missions and so on that we've talked about. Yeah. And you know that, he talks about hacking Red Wing because it's government property. It's that analysis of how you're going to do the mission, that plan. You hear Bucky and Sam talking about, what's the plan in the plane, and you don't hear one. It's kind of a different perspective at the way he's coming at it from, and I guess that's why, well, if you're not with me, well, then you're against me, and it becomes that rivalry.
Before we move on to our next point, definitely have to say Captain America is an army man. He was in the army for years. After becoming Captain America. So he only just joined up, got the super soldier serum, became Captain America, and then led his forces in the army for many, many years. So he is absolutely an army man. The difference with John Walker, as you say, is that John Walker joined the army, worked his way up to the rank of captain.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm not saying Captain America is not an army man. I'm saying that at least from the first Avenger, he's at training camp and effectively would be kicked out, with the exception that his personality, before he's gone through any promotions and moving up through the military, like fresh in, his personality is one that effectively selects him to take that super serum. Yeah. And then he becomes Captain America. Exactly. And then he becomes in the army, but effectively he doesn't like taking orders, because that's the whole point with the Civil War. He's not really chain of command type material. Absolutely. So that's what I meant. Whereas John Walker absolutely is. Yep. That's entirely how he's made his profession. That's the essence of the difference between them for me anyway.
Yeah. It's like he's an agent of the US in some way, isn't it?
You literally made the joke I was about to. Well done. Well no done. Well, before we move on, just want to very much quickly call it out, because other people will. He's not enhanced. He is a basically peak physical human in scoring off the record or off the charts on all elements from intelligence and physical endurance and everything, as by MIT.
But not as smart as Dr. Banner and not the money of Tony Stark. I love that they have that in here. Remember when we used to be on Netflix and we'd, when they make reference to the green guy or the yellow and red suit, we'd get all excited that they'd reference the movies. Yeah. And now they're out and out calling out characters and people that are in this universe, which is really good.
Absolutely. And I agree. He's not enhanced. I get all that. But what I'm saying, his shield skills are very, very good. Like to the point where it's like, does the shield have homing device on it or something? Because I mean, that is a particular skill which I was like going, oh wow, I wasn't expecting to see him be able to throw that shield and knock out all those targets. That's what I mean. I thought it was going to come back and hit him. We were going to see like this trial and error because he isn't enhanced, but he's picked up the shield moves, which I thought was interesting.
We probably think this is the PR video, so that may be take number 700.
That could be a good outtake, exactly.
Or with the CGI shield added afterwards, maybe. No, you can definitely tell he has got the shield skills, which, I know there has actually been that question out there since Captain America Winter Soldier, when the shield was being used by Cap in a very different way than we saw in the previous movies. We saw that he was bouncing it off things and it was landing very specifically on his arm. He was throwing it on his back and it was sticking there. So people have wondered whether there was some Stark tech in the actual shield that was kind of making it attractive back to him.
Because I was thinking, how, when the shield comes back at you, do you manage to get your arm through the straps that allow you to hold it?
Skill.
So I'm just like going, that is mind blowing.
Yeah.
I guess my physics brain imploded as to what must happen when they do that.
In the immortal words, comic books, baby.
I know. But I know he's not leveled up, or he's not enhanced. He's not a super soldier, but I'm just like, those skills are really impressive.
Absolutely. Let's just say comic books, because it wouldn't look as cool if he dropped his shield as a replacement Captain America immediately.
But gentlemen, speaking of comic books, let's move on to bullet point number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about androids, aliens, or wizards?
We're talking about Gandalf.
That's it. The first ever printing of Tolkien.
I loved it.
I love when you can pull that. So, excuse me, hold on. I'm OG. First print here.
Yeah, exactly. I loved the whole thing with Bucky and Sam, just the banter back and forth, and just, when wizards are mentioned, it's just like, are we talking about Gandalf, like in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and just the whole first print because of Bucky's 106 years. Really, really good. And of course,
of course he would have read that in 1937.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess, is Doctor Strange a wizard just as a sorcerer? But I guess Sam has a perfect explanation for that. He's a wizard without a hat.
I just love how Sam Wilson comes up with this stuff where he's just on the fly. He even calls it out. He's like, a sorcerer is just a wizard without a hat. I come up with that right now. And it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I really like this idea of having the top 3. It feels like a self-referential MCU slag. It's basically every movie. We're either going to have an android, aliens, or a wizard as our villain, right? That's what's going to happen. So I really like that as the joke. What we have seen in the Captain America movie specifically, usually it is a human enemy that we have, not someone that is an android, alien, or wizard. But that's kind of the joke, that the big battles are always between someone with magic, someone from another planet, or a robot that's been built.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that, with this great banter between Bucky and Sam, that, underlying that just before it is, I guess, this bit of personal tension between the two, that episode 1 talked about him not replying to Sam's text messages, but this whole thing of seeing Sam having given up the shield, and the big question for Bucky is, why did you do that? And why, it feels like it's somehow sort of putting the hand up to Steve's sort of intentions to entrust this shield to Sam. And this plays out, this simmering tension plays out between the two, and this is really nice as well. I like this personal aspect, this intimate tension between the two.
Like, Bucky's really angry about this. The scene in Endgame where Steve gives Sam the shield, you saw Bucky kind of go to him, no, you go, you take it. Steve wants you to have it, so totally trusting in Steve's choice that Sam should be the next person to wield the shield. And in here you have Bucky kind of going, like, what did you do? I absolutely trusted you to keep the shield, Yeah. And I love Sam's response of, what do you want me to do? Call up America and tell them I made a mistake? Good little joke in there. But Bucky, once again, going back to his old traits, he's like, well, we're going to steal the shield back and then we'll have it and we'll become the next Captain America, effectively. And they call out the line. I have to talk about this here. They call out something that we all should have known all week. Another one of the things that's been going on all week is people wanting to cancel Tony Stark for not paying the Avengers, and people not having any money. Why is Falcon broke? Why can't he get himself a new home or take care of his business? Well, Falcon was on the run for 2 years from the government. Of course he wasn't getting paid from anybody. He went against the Sokovia Accords, which would have cut off any kind of money that he was being being given, you know? He calls out Sharon Carter, who we haven't seen in the show yet, but he calls out that she was considered a criminal, for helping them get the shield back. So this is something we absolutely should have known last week, but I couldn't count the number of articles I saw with people wondering why an Avenger like Sam would be broke. Well, he disappeared for 5 years after going on the run for 2. So, yeah, so for 7 years, he's had no income, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I
love that it's there, though, that it's in dialogue. For all of us that should really have known that last week.
I like the little reference as well to, in this part, to Bucky's time in Wakanda as well, where Sam's saying, you think you're the White Panther now, and he says, no, it's the White Wolf. I really hope that he's called the White Wolf moving forward, because it's weird saying Winter Soldier, actually, because you know that Winter Soldier was that agent of Hydra in the 50s, 60s, 70s, doing all the assassination attempts, you know, and helping to advance the Hydra agenda. Cool name. I love calling Bucky it, but it feels sometimes a little weird calling him the Winter Soldier in this. And having said that, I love the White Wolf. I like that, you know, the Wakandans and Black Panther called him the White Wolf, where he kind of, you know, got his new arm as well. So, cool. Like, I hope that kind of takes off a bit, but I guess so far not.
You can call him the White Wolf. You can call him Winter Soldiers. Don't call him Buck. That's Steve's special name for Bucky. He's the only person allowed to call him Buck. I love that, where Sam kind of says, don't worry, Buck. And he's like, no, hang on a second. That's Steve.
If I call him Buck, then unfortunately, all I'll be able to think of is, meanie, hey up, Buck.
Buck Rogers. God, we're old, John.
At least, but then we might have some roller skate discos in space. That would help with the alien side.
That will go over the head of most of our listeners and our co-host, I think. John?
No, Buck Rogers, 31st century.
Yeah, it was like neon lights on roller skates, and fab.
They're actually remaking it.
Groovy.
Of course they are. Remake everything.
Yeah.
Groovy, baby.
I'll quickly jump in here before we move on to point number 3, because it kind of links in. But this for me was great. The banter, the previous banter for the two of them, I think, John, you just said, right, the simmering malcontent, if you want to call it that. That's
very Cinderella.
Yeah. Which you can see all the way back to Civil War, where even when they first capture Bucky again and his arm's in the vice, you have Falcon and Steve there, and they kind of, they're trying to chat through and kind of what happened, because it was essentially when, after Zemo had kind of reprogrammed Bucky. It's just that kind of, you think it's friendly ribbing. There is an element of camaraderie there. Like, they both, but it's not fully realized yet.
Yes, we'll definitely talk about this a little bit in the therapy scene, which we want to talk about later on. I know from interviews that we've seen with the two actors, over the last couple of weeks, I love that effectively they say that this is the relationship between both of the actors, you probably know this from the behind the scenes stuff, but Anthony Mackie is a very funny person who can carry any kind of interview, any question that's thrown at him. He's very good at carrying it. Sebastian Stan says himself, he's a quiet one. So when Marvel were putting them on the tours to go around the world, they were kind of going, stick Anthony Mackie with Sebastian Stan, because he can take any question, and the banter between the two of them works really well, you know? Yes. So that's kind of how they came up with the idea of doing a TV show with the two of them. It's a pretty much a no-brainer that these two characters are the right people to spin off from the movie universe. But when seeing the two of them together, you really get a good feel of how their banter works, I suppose. So I really like that, you know, that scene back in Civil War where the two of them are kind of having that bit of banter, is the seed that germinated into the TV show. So yeah, really good to see this on screen in the second episode, because we didn't get it the first episode. That's the one we're waiting for. Yeah. They kept them apart the first episode. So having this scene where they basically go from being on the ground, Bucky annoyed at Sam and they talk the whole way from that point all the way to the factory that they're getting to over in Germany, where the two of them are just literally talking the whole time at each other, which is quite funny. Even when Sam is being silent and doesn't want to talk to Bucky, there's still banter between the two of them. Really good fun scene. Let's talk about our big battle scene for the episode. These feel like our traditional movie episodes where we talk about the action sequences from the center of our movies. In this episode, for our bullet point number 3, let's talk about the Flagsmashers and their plan to get away with something. Arms or
some kind of supplies.
Some supplies.
I mean,
vaccines,
talk about,
I think is what Bucky thinks they are.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like they're a breakaway group of Flag Smashers or something, because I guess for me there was really kind of interesting idea that, you know, they really feel like freedom fighters and that their intentions are to help people in these multiple camps, post blip, you know, that have returned and are homeless or are cash strapped and all of this. Yeah. And it seems like they're trying to supply these with, you know, pharmaceuticals, you know, dehydrated food supplies or whatever.
Vaccinations.
And all this kind of stuff. So, that was really interesting to see. And even with, you know, the reveal of the leader of this group, Karli Morgenthau, just when she was speaking to them about, you know, it felt quite, level. It felt like you know, you could see her rationale as like, if we're doing this, and, you know, we need to know that you're all in. We need to help out our brothers and sisters. It's still very much about smashing flags and removing borders and so on. But it you know, there's that element that they have a different agenda maybe to the core Flag Smasher group, unless this is just the Flag Smashers, because again, there's still more we need to know about this group.
I don't think it's all of them, definitely, but you did see that one of the characters that's with her is the guy that we saw in Switzerland last week, who fought Torres. So he is the only people that we've seen from the Flag Smashers. 2 of them are in the room here. So
they do. I'm with John. They seem like a splinter or a more violent version, because they when they're in the hideout later on, they do call out, there's no going back from this. This is going to change the group.
Yeah.
They essentially, whatever their plan is. So essentially, either they decided to become more, a more violent version of that, of the Flag Smashers, or this is a call out to the empowerment or the beginning, but that's a different show. The enhancements that they have got.
Yeah, so I feel they are the ones that have taken a super soldier serum of some sort, some kind of enhancing serum, and that's what the text message is that Karli
from
gets.
The power broker.
Well, there's no name on the phone. She said it says you've taken
something of mine.
Something of mine. I will chase you down. I will kill you. Yeah. Possibly the power broker, possibly somebody else involved in the Flag Smashers. So right now we know that all of these people are enhanced though. Yeah. Which is definitely interesting.
And we see this in the battle on the trucks as well, which is really, like, it's really awesome. They really do hold their own against Bucky and, the Falcon here. And I really like it. I mean, because they think as well that Karli is a hostage. She's in the back of the truck with the supplies. And when Bucky goes in, and there's just that sort of knowing grin coming from Karli as she boots, Bucky out the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And then you have this, you know, this great battle on top of the truck. She basically breaks Red Wing apart, which it was just really funny because of Bucky saying, I've always wanted to do that, as he's being pummeled. And it's just like these really nice little quips. Absolutely. I mean, dare I say it, and don't hate me for it, but it feels like Roger Moore style Bond, but it's really? No, but I love that. And I really like it. Okay. You know, the little quip as, you know, something bad's about to go down or is happening. But it's done, I guess less cheesy than Roger Moore did in the 80s for sure. But, I love that moment there from Bucky.
I do wonder what it's like for the actor here, Erin Kellerman, who plays this role of Karli. You know, this is two major projects that she's been in that they basically remove the mask and reveal that she's a young looking girl and shouldn't possibly be in the leadership roles for this. We saw her back in Solo, the Star Wars prequel. Exactly in this role, the leader of a resistance fighter group that shouldn't possibly be the leader because she's got freckles and has got red hair and looks like a young woman. I wonder, does she go into these, roles, with projecting that? You know, I may look innocent, but I'm actually a really good leader for these types of, resistance troops. I wonder if that's her if that's on her resume when she goes in.
I do like this actress. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. She has this look of innocence in her, on her, because it is her look. She's like, it's the hair, it's the freckles, it's that kind of, look of youth and innocence and stuff. And then they do, it's all about like the circumvention of that, kind of the co-option in that she may look innocent, she isn't. Mm-hmm. I like that what they're doing to this character, or characters. So just for the listeners, just so people don't have a bit of backstory, because they now have called her name and so Flagsmasher is from the comic books. Yeah. His name in the comic books is Karli Morgenthau. Mm-hmm. So essentially what they've done is in the MCU, they've swapped genders for Karl and Kari, and they've made her the Flagsmashers instead of the Flagsmasher. Yeah. So in the comic books, it was Karli Morgenthau, the Flagsmasher, and his group, the Ultimatum. Essentially what they've done is made the Ultimatum his mercenary group, or his kind of, not mercenary, his terrorist group, the Flagsmashers, mm-hmm. and Karli is the leader, or de facto, or something, of the Flagsmashers. Yeah.
I'd certainly call her the leader here. Yeah.
Yes. There is in the comic book, there's a direct reference to the power brokers, to the power broker as well. I won't call that out just yet, but we do hear when they are on, and we'll get to, we know all of these Flagsmashers are enhanced. It says vaccines on the side of the crates in the truck.
Yeah.
And then they load them onto the plane.
You know, there's another reason why I want to join the Flagsmashers.
They're giving vaccines to
so
everyone,
we might actually get vaccines into Ireland, yeah.
That we do see, you said there's an unknown text, you stole something of mine, I'm coming for you. But then when they're getting on the plane...
to kill you. Yeah.
Coming to kill you. Yeah. When they're getting on the plane, we do see that they call it's the power broker's men. Mm-hmm. So we've got name checked to the power broker.
Did anybody think that moment was a bit weird when one of the enhanced members of the Flagsmashers stays behind, knocks the massive telegraph pole to stop all the cars from coming along, and then goes to stand in the way of loads of bullets and just dies? When he doesn't actually get past the bullets. It's just, we've seen so often people with superpowers in TV shows and movies, and enhanced people in TV shows and movies, and it's usually that people can't shoot them. But it felt a bit odd that they're not that powered, is kind of the what I'm taking from it. In the actual truck battle, when Walker joins and shoots one of them, like he gets shot and bleeds. Like with one shot, he gets shot and bleeds. So it feels like they're enhanced, but not. They're not Captain America enhanced. They're enhanced in some way. They're more strong, but not super, super strong.
It's their water, like the Wicked Witch of the West in
bullets.
Yeah, bullets.
Okay,
bullets are their kryptonite.
Yeah, like most humans, a bullet is our kryptonite.
I think this was shorthand.
I think because the Wizard of Oz reference before kryptonite
or humans. Yeah,
or humans. Yeah, okay. We're friends of Dorothy.
Yes, we are.
I thought this was shorthand here, because even I went, why is he just, like, he's just shown his strength, put down the telephone pole, and rather than pick it up and kind of swing it at the cars, he runs at a hail of oncoming bullets.
And he just
because they're all studying with their AK-40. Basically, I think this was shorthand, just in case you didn't know that these guys aren't bulletproof, because John Walker shot one of them.
Yeah.
But he survived, so maybe they were like, we don't want you to think that they're too too kind of enhanced.
Yeah.
So here's one of them running at a hail of bullets. I thought it was silly because, but it kind of just
at least put up some fight,
like throw one of the cars over.
Yeah, exactly.
Or try and dodge the bullets. I mean, I guess his supervillain name would be Shooting Range, because like he is literally the physical embodiment of the target and shooting range. So like, yeah, it was a little silly. And it was like,
but I take your point, Chris, that it is probably just shorthand to explain they've got superpowers, but they're not invincible.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another TV show that we're covering.
But I think the other good thing about this truck battle is we have Captain America and Battlestar join the fray here to help out. And I guess, again, you see the resentment a bit from Bucky and Sam, the roll of the eyes. I have to say, I think the side eye, the squint, the roll of the eyes that Anthony Mackie can do is just phenomenally good. He really conveys sort of that sort of exasperation of, oh no, this thing's happening again, or they've turned up, really good. But I like in this that when they come to help, there is that, Bucky catches the shield that John Walker has thrown, to take out one of the Flagsmashers. It's on its return back and he grabs it like that scene from The Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. But there's almost this like muscle memory where he lays it off to Captain America as John Walker comes running through. Yeah. And it's kind of like, oh, I probably should have kept that.
I didn't need to go out and have a whole plan to steal it. We have it right here.
Yeah, but I loved that scene. I thought that was really, really good here. Yeah. And I loved all the scenes with Falcon trying to get under the truck get, save Bucky who'd been thrown off. I thought that was really good. Just seeing the mobility of the Falcon,
so cool.
Was really, really cool.
It's so cool. The only thing that I thought was a bit weird, I think we talked about it earlier on, so we have confirmation here that Bucky is superpowered, right? So he jumped out of an airplane 200 feet. We have him chasing and catching up to the two trucks, running down the road as trucks are traveling at full speed. So we know he's superpowered now. Right. So, just
enhanced,
to be completely clear, he is definitely enhanced, after a discussion we had last week where we weren't 100% sure. But the one thing I thought was a bit weird about it is he ran to the back of the second truck. Yeah. Jumped into the back of it, opened the doors and jumped in. If you drive, you're looking at the road. So what was the driver of the truck right behind him?
That's exactly
there's a guy right there jumping into the truck.
I was thinking that. I was thinking, why aren't they shooting through the windshield?
Even the horn. Where, like, oh my God, you've got someone just like,
I mean, I guess they knew that it wasn't a hostage and that their leader was in the back there so that I guess she would deal with it. But I know what you mean. You were kind of thinking, why are they not sort of trying to stop him or, beeping the horn? Yeah. But it's also when the trucks are going down the road, 2x2 on the other side of the road. And you're just thinking, okay, I know it was kind of country road type thing, but I was just expecting there were a few cars around, and I was just expecting to see car after car sort of going into the verge, like turning off the road because of these two cars coming down the road. Because I think you see that in films these days. When you have that car chase, like there's amazing shots that you can do where it shows them having to come back in and that to avoid collisions with oncoming cars. Yeah. And you didn't really get that sense here. It was more, other than when Falcon goes through, absolutely. And when, John Walker, is kicked off and goes into the windshield. Yeah. But it just, I guess it just felt like these two hulking trucks just like going, we're coming down this road, we're not going to move. And I get it, but I mean, absolutely. That was another little weird thing for me.
It makes for a more dynamic fight when they're throwing people back and forth between the top of two trucks. So it's quite a fun scene. Again, a really good action scene for the episode. Let's get on to bullet point number 4, because I know John really wants to talk about this, the return of one of his favorite characters from episode 1, the therapist. But one, Sam and Bucky go into therapy in this episode.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of a two-stage type therapy, I guess, in a sense here, because we have, you know, on the plane ride back from Germany, there's still that, you know, simmering tension. And that, you know, they kind of, their drop-off point is in Baltimore, where Bucky is trying to explain to Sam, that, you know, he's souped, Captain America was, with the super soldier serum, you know, the Flagsmashers are enhanced to a certain level, and that, you know, actually trying to say that there's actually been a lot of people, not specifically like Steve Rogers, but have been enhanced in order to achieve that, or have achieved that in some way, in the past, and that it's not just Sam who has been Captain America. As he brings Sam to this house in a suburb of Baltimore to meet Isaiah Bradley, and I thought this was really, really good.
Seems really strong.
It's really strong. It's really powerful, and just how Isaiah Bradley loses it. You see the great shock of Sam as he chucks the kind of the little metal case into the wall, as he realizes that this guy is also super soldier level enhanced. And there's this whole conversation of this past history between Bucky and him. It's also just what has happened after, you know, that meeting between the Winter Soldier and Isaiah, in the Korean War. Just the way he says, you know what they did to me for being a hero. And it's like, I was put in jail for 30 years, tested on, blood taken, and even, you know, looking at Bucky, your people, still weren't finished with me, because of, I guess, his power. And you're just like, yeah, you know, you contrast that with Steve Rogers, and, it becomes really kind of poignant, and charged. Yeah, exactly. But I thought it was just so well done. I love just how he kicks, you know, Sam wants to then come in and it's just like, get out. Like it felt emotionally raw for him, and it would be. It's really quite a powerful scene, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just such a good scene. It's a really good idea to bring in this character from the comic books. Isaiah Bradley was the first black Captain America, introduced in 2003 in the comic books. Featured in a comic books, a mini series called Truth, Red, White, and Black. But I love that they brought him in here. It's kind of introducing two elements that are really important for the series here. One is telling Sam, while you may have thought that Steve, your best friend, was the only ever enhanced first person with the super soldier serum, you've now met some bad guys, effectively, this team of Flagsmashers that have the super soldier serum, but this has been going on for a long, long time, a lot longer than you think. But I like it's also introducing the element, these Bucky's introducing this element to him that you may also think you would be the first black Captain America, but there has been one before you. So you don't have to worry about that pressure that you would be putting on yourself by taking on the shield. Steve thought you were worthy. You absolutely should have taken his advice and become the Captain America. You wouldn't have been the first, effectively. So I like they're introducing both of the points. But as you say, John, I do like that it ends with them being kicked out because of how badly Isaiah was treated over the years. It isn't one of those moments where he sits down and goes, let me regale you with all the tales of how wonderful it was to be Captain America.
He's justifiably angry and upset because he's been treated like crap.
Absolutely. And Winter Soldier, who was the target of the United States for 30, 40 years, and many countries for 30 or 40 years because of the murders that he committed, has just walked into his house and said, I'm no longer a murderer. Let's move on, kind of thing.
Yeah, has gotten a free pass.
Absolutely. Hang on a second. I spent 30 years in jail because I was a hero, and you can just walk away from being an assassin, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's 30 years in jail for fighting for your country, and a conditional pardon for fighting against your country, for 50, 60, 70 years. Like, so, like, it is, it's unjustifiable, like that, and you see his anger about that, and it feels right, and it feels raw, and it's really, really good.
I strongly recommend any of our listeners who are interested, please read Red, White, and Black. It's such a good comic book. It talks about systemic racism and things like that, but at the same time, it's a comic book about a black Captain America in the 70s. It's a really good comic book. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I will just say, so he was a black Captain America, Isaiah, but he was never officially publicly recognized. He was essentially a covert ops African American Captain America. It's based on some real world events and things called the Tuskegee experiments, and it's really good. I'm not going to spoil it because they're probably going to get deeper into it, throughout this series, I'd say. I.e. how, why the background a bit more.
I'm sure we're going to see the character back. That felt like an unresolved story.
Exactly. So I won't get too far, but it's really good. But I recommend if you're interested, read it because it's really fun. What I'll say is on this kind of piece before we get into the rest of the therapy, that charged element of it is just fantastic because there is also we and I love how Sam calls it out. He goes, he said my people, and later on Sam goes, oh no, he didn't mean that. No, he means Hydra. Yeah. In that moment, you as an audience, when he says your people, your brain doesn't go to, essentially your brain doesn't go to Hydra. It's not. I didn't think they would be going down this route as much as they are, but they are going to talk about systemic racism because literally as they walk outside the street in Baltimore, you have a Caucasian and an African American man yelling at each other and the cops come. And that's how we do get to the police station because they essentially are turning to Bucky going, are you alright, sir? Is this man bothering you, sir? And it's only upon figuring out that's Sam Wilson. Oh my God, that's the Falcon. That it then decharges and then you get Bucky arrested for missing.
And once again, it's not just that. It is Bucky saying, do you guys not know who this is? Yeah. And he only gets out of the situation because he is Sam Wilson, the Falcon. If it had been any other black man in that situation, he would be the one in cuffs being taken off to prison effectively.
Exactly.
It's such a moment that sets my skin crawling when I see this. It's such a true experience, unfortunately, for so many people, where this has happened, just being stopped in the street. But it's an argument between two people who know each other really well, have known each other for 4 or 5 years, and they're having an argument. They're having a loud discussion effectively. And then that siren just goes and you're like, oh, not this, Yeah.
And it's, they play on the identity aspect here, but it's done in a way that it's, oh, you weren't wearing your costume. Yeah. Not that I didn't recognize you because of other stereotypes, and there's a real interesting, subtle play on that. Yeah. But all about being in costume or not being in costume. And I thought that was kind of really interesting as well. But it ultimately leads to Bucky being arrested because he's missed his court-mandated therapy session. I guess this is the other therapy part of it, in a sense. Yeah. And one which
I knew we'd get there.
riddled with, I guess, bromance tension.
Oh my God, the standards on the internet are gonna just be in love with this scene.
I loved it. And as I say, I really like Dr. Rayner. I would love to be Dr. Rayner trying to deal with these two guys. It would just be such a professional achievement, I guess. Not that I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but nonetheless.
But you would get your degree to go and deal with these two guys.
Probably, yeah. I just saw the tension in that room because effectively Bucky gets bailed by John Walker and they have to just quickly do their court-mandated therapy session.
Yep.
She brings in Sam, and you have the miracle question, which is really funny. You know, it plays on the banter and the tension between them. You know, what would you want if a miracle happens whilst you're asleep? And they're both like, that they both talk less. And so it's like, okay, so we'll move on to the soul casing exercise, because that wasn't really helpful. And just the, you know, as they move the chairs, as they face one another, this bromance face-off, I guess.
Are you in a staring contest?
Yeah, the staring contest.
I love just then the click. She clicks Sam out of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just like, give up.
Really good fun.
But there's a real getting to the heart of the matter here. You know, that for Bucky, personally, it's, because Sam's given up the shield, he feels Steve could have been wrong about Sam.
Yep.
Then he could be wrong about me, that Bucky will, you know, fall back, and possibly that sort of deep programming of the Winter Soldier will come back. And I love the simplicity of Sam's kind of personal point of view, is that, can you accept what I did was right, for me?
Yeah.
You know, Steve and Bucky, you know, it's something that you may not understand, but what I did was right for me.
Steve,
and that was really kind of nice, because sometimes it is just that.
Well, Steve made the decision to trust in Sam's choices, not made the decision that Sam would become the next Steve Rogers. That's the important thing that Sam is constantly fighting about throughout this episode. That moment, as we said earlier on, where John Walker says, do you guys want to be my wingman? It's like, no, I've stepped up from that. I'm no longer a wingman or a sidekick or someone that stands beside Steve Rogers, only I'm 100 meters behind him, like he said before. I'm now my own person who should absolutely be trusted with my decisions. And Bucky once again is falling on, did Steve make the right choice to trust you? Sam's going, just trust me. Doesn't matter what Steve thought. I've made this choice and trust that I've made the right choice. I think it's a really good part of his character. It's this moment in this episode where you see him stepping up to being Falcon, the hero, not Captain America and Falcon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, the bromance element, the simmering bromance, is really good. And of course, there are some interesting shipper names that could be formed.
I was wondering
this.
what they are. Is it Falky?
Buckon?
Okay, actually, there's another one that's just come to mind that we can't say on the podcast.
No.
There is another one. If you have imagination, you can work out what the other shipper name for Falcon and Bucky might well be. But it is a really interesting scene. I do love that it closes out with Falcon just hitting Bucky on the shoulder and going, look, we obviously have stuff to deal with. Can we just say we're going to put it to the side, deal with the mission that we have to do because it's really important, and then afterwards just ignore each other and move away and never see each other again? It's a real alpha male type way of dealing with it. And I love that he just turns finally to Dr. Rader and says to her, thanks for making it weird, as he walks out. It's just total alpha male. I'm not supposed to be here in therapy to deal with my issues. I could deal with them on my own, and you've just made the whole situation weird. All I needed him for was because he's strong, and I needed him to be in battle with me to deal with this issue. Now it's weird.
But it was so heartbreaking. What was the second rule, Doctor? And he goes, don't hurt anyone. And I was just like, he knows he's hurt Falcon.
Oh, okay. That's how you took that. I took that as, I'm going to go out and punch people in the face now.
No, okay. You see, it's multi-layered.
I like it.
It's just because I was just like, he's already hurt the Flagsmashers. He's been in a fight. Yeah. But I took it as, like, what was the second rule? He looked so forlorn in this because he's just sad because he knows he's hurt, but at the same time, he's also hurt Sam. And that was the bit I took so much from this because he's like, Bucky has so much tied up in Sam Wilson just because if Sam Wilson can't be a hero, then there's no chance of his redemption.
Yeah.
And it's just this codependency that is amazing. And do you know what? And I know it's probably been called out in 100 other podcasts. This is to a degree, a lethal weapon.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's Riggs and Murtaugh.
Yeah. But
essentially, they've kind of also switched it because Bucky is Murtaugh. He's too old for this crap.
Absolutely. It certainly is. It's the buddy cop standard, I suppose. A buddy cop thriller, I suppose, is what it is. But Chris, I am shocked. That's the most sensitive reading of part of an episode you've ever had.
I know.
400 episodes that we do. You've changed in COVID days, Chris. So well done. Well done. That's a really good reading. I like that.
And the reason I bring up Lethal Weapon is because as Lethal Weapon progressed from 1 to 4 or 5, whatever it was on, there was this codependency built between the two characters, which we're going to get throughout this season. Like, this codependency that buddy cop will grow and become, they'll be the Turner and Hooch. Who's Hooch and who's Turner? We will figure it out.
Be a dog.
Well, considering Hooch was the dog partner of Tom Hanks, I'm presuming your Riggs and Murtaugh was probably a better example of that, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Much like Hooch was in the doghouse in parts of that film, let's talk about someone else who is in the doghouse, technically under house arrest. In bullet point number 5, we are getting reintroduced to Mr. Zemo. He is there. Like, we get that shot of it is Berlin, wasn't it? That was the Berlin, that is the Berlin, monument.
The big roundabout, yeah.
It's the big roundabout in the park that sort of leads up to the Bundestag. And,
So we now know that, Baron Zemo is under house arrest in The Hague.
I can't believe you called him Mr. Zemo. Give him his title, Chris. Baron Zemo.
We don't. So we do not know he's never been called
That's
Baron.
True, yeah, that is.
So technically he is still just Mr. Zemo.
Mr. Zemo, yes, absolutely. No, really good to have the introduction of Baron Zemo here as the villain for the show, or a villain that's coming onto the show. He was so good in Civil War as this person that knew he couldn't beat superheroes, but set them against each other to beat each other. That was his major plan. And he is the central architect of Civil War. I thought that was such a good position to put this character who has been in so many Captain America comics and so many comics over the years since his introduction many years ago. It's great to see him back in here, and I'm really intrigued to see how they're going to use him in this series. Differently than we expected. We were kind of thinking, the villain of the series, it seems, is going to be Flagsmashers, and you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe Zemo's behind them. But what we find is he's just been in prison. He's been in prison since Civil War, and he's going to be the consultant, effectively. Kind of like the Hannibal Lecter, to Clarice Starling. He's going to be the consultant to Bucky and Falcon, telling them the things that he may know about Hydra's plans, from his time working with them, which I think is really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. He knows everything about Hydra. All the history, the hidden history of Hydra, so therefore the hidden history of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. And exactly, the assumption was from the trailer, and it's, again, why I love, they zigged when they thought they were going to zag, because I bring them up in every episode. No, so like the trailer, they had that VO, the voiceover, where it was essentially you hear Zemo saying, they're creating new superheroes, and I will bring them down. Something along, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that. So the thought was always going to be, so Zemo is basically creating the Flagsmashers to take down superheroes.
Yeah.
No, you're right. He is now essentially and he's a Punisher. Like, they're going to try and make Zemo an anti-hero.
Right. Well, we don't know anything at all. We see him in there. He doesn't get a line. We see him in prison in this episode, and we know that the two boys are going in to interrogate him or talk to him and find out. But are we in the like Fast and Furious 5 realm here, where the villains from the first 4 movies now join the team?
Yes.
Is that the kind of action trope we're in? We're in there.
But the key trope, can I call it out? Because no, I don't. Come on, like, why does every Marvel supervillain play chess? It's the ultimate trope. He's a bad guy. He's in prison. He's gonna play chess
because they're all
every
intelligent.
Magneto.
It's shorthand for them being really intelligent.
Dormammu doesn't play chess.
He'd burn the
he
chessboard.
He doesn't have hands.
He does.
He plays strategic chess on his the board of the multiverse.
So life is a game of chess.
There you go.
Exactly. And we're all the pawns.
But a really cool way to end the episode, having the introduction of Zemo here. We knew he was coming in the series, but that when you have that moment where the guys say, we're going to go and talk to Zemo.
Yeah.
And then you see him introduced and then the credits roll. It's always, no, not now. Give him like 5 minutes of screen time. We have to wait till next week.
It's a nice little twist. And I guess this is where we're going to get Sharon Carter. You know, I feel like she may be this kind of seconded security expert for America in Berlin. You know, making sure that he is, you know, securely locked out. I don't know, locked in.
Because we don't really know what happened to Sharon. We did get the line from Falcon that she was considered an enemy of the state, after stealing, Captain America's shield. So we have a line there. We know she's coming up in the series. Really want to know what happened to her because she didn't take part in any of the massive war that was going on in Infinity War and Endgame. She didn't have a part in there. So you wonder where she's been. Was she another person that was snapped out of existence for 5 years even? Or has she been working undercover for the last 5 or 6 years for one of the agencies? So we'll see that later on in the series. But a good introduction, and as always, a good cliffhanger to make me come back next week, as if I wasn't going to.
Exactly. We did see her in Civil War working with Everett Ross.
Yep.
Who is Martin Freeman's character from Black Panther. And I think Europol or Interpol.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
It was one of those. So my assumption, I think, is you're right that she will be in this, but working for Europol or Interpol because she is technically considered she's lost all of her US citizenship. So essentially she's become this kind of de facto contractor for them.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that's where, if he's being held in Germany, most likely in their version of the superpowered Raft Hague, it's going to be, they'll have the Europol version kind of looking after them.
Potentially, yeah. We'll see. We will see, hopefully, the character later on in the series. Well, we know she's in the show, so we will see what's happened to Sharon Carter. As I mentioned before, just the idea that we have Sharon Carter, a massive character in the Captain America comic books, getting a bit of screen time. I'm really excited to see that as well. It's going to be pretty cool. So that's kind of it about the episode overall. Any notes, Chris?
Yes, I do, because why not? Very quickly for me, I just wanted to bring up Eli Bradley, the young gentleman. Well, he's not called Eli in the show,
right?
But there is a younger gentleman who opens a door in Isaiah Bradley's house.
Yeah. The guy is trying to keep Bucky and Falcon from coming in, basically.
Yes, exactly. In the comic books, there is a similar gentleman who is the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, Eli Bradley, who becomes a young Avenger named Patriot, because the super soldier serum passes down through the generations. He is slightly enhanced. Because it's basically in his blood. Yeah. Think what if Captain America had a son, essentially.
Well, basically, Like Steve never had the opportunity because he was frozen for so many years and then didn't have long enough to have a relationship after he came back.
Well, he was too busy with his barbershop quartet.
Exactly.
Yes,
They're all dead, John.
Again, this leads credence to that potentially with the introduction of Kate Bishop in the upcoming Hawkeye series, with the two sons in one division, Benny and Tommy, all of these characters who they are introducing, quote unquote, i.e. cameos, they all end up as Young Avengers later on. Right. So credence that we may get a Young Avengers in the next phase. Like they age everyone up, or it's that they all come together in their version of the Infinity War. It's that introduction type thing.
Yeah, I really like the idea of having these kind of background characters coming together in the future, 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line. It's a really cool idea.
Yep.
Good catch, Chris. Any other notes for you?
Yes, just want to very quickly call out for our listeners to have a look at the closing credits. And I'm not talking about the black and white ones here. What I'm talking about is the kind of animated, kind of everything with news reports and clippings and redacted files. This is something with a number of, which would have been potentially a spoiler last episode, but not in this episode, essentially. So you have Bradley's name in there with essentially beside kind of Captain America's name.
Isaiah Bradley's name. Yeah.
Isaiah Bradley. Excuse me. You have Power Broker and the name Power Broker.
You have I saw the headline where it has Power Broker is watching on. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So again, Power Broker in the comic books is an entity, a corporation that gives people powers for enough money. Then you get John Walker's name last issue. In the last episode, John Walker's name was in the credits.
That's
there.
right.
So
yeah.
like John Walker is the next Captain America. So what they are doing and essentially is seeding some additional information in these, which I made the joke to my co-hosts, which is I've gone into full CSI mode, where I am going, pause, enhance. When I say enhance, I'm walking up closer to my TV screen and trying to read it and pause it and read it.
Yes. Unfortunately, we don't have don't have all of the Shield tools available to us to be able to enhance and zoom into this stuff. Excellent. That's a really good one. We must have a look at that and see if there's anything in there that will be of interest for next week. Because I did see Baron Zemo was added to the credits this week. He wasn't in those credits last week. He didn't have the image on there. Last week we saw John Walker was called out in those credits, not, as we said, not played by the actor, just simply John Walker, the new Cap is here, was what was listed in there. Excellent stuff.
So, with that then, Derek, do you defend Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2?
I love this. This is really right in my wheelhouse. It's exactly the type of show that I wanted about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I love the Captain America stuff. I love the Captain America movies. It's playing out exactly the way I wanted it to play out. In some ways, I wish it was a movie so I could watch it all, because it feels exactly like what I wanted to see. Having this ability to be able to develop those characters so much more than you could have in the movies is really good for me to see these two characters who haven't had a huge amount of development. They've always been, this is Steve's something. This is Steve's friend who turned into Winter Soldier. This is Steve's wingman who is the Falcon. Now we actually have, this is Sam Wilson and his story, and we're starting to get more of, this is Bucky and his story. And I really like that. I really like the ability of Marvel to be able to do that. The only drawback, and I knew it was going to happen, the only drawback I see in this show is that we just got WandaVision, a 9-episode series that came out of nowhere, did something really different and really, really impressive with its runtime in those 9 episodes. And then we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is a standard Marvel TV show. I know they were supposed to be flipped, and I absolutely can accept that, but it does feel sometimes you're kind of going, oh, is this too normal of a show that it's not going to be as popular as something like WandaVision? So that's the only drawback, but I'm really enjoying it because it's right in my type of movie and my type of TV shows. So, really, really good. Absolutely defend it. Chris, how about yourself? Do you defend Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2, Star-Spangled Man?
I absolutely do. As much as if I could punch Hitler in the face myself. I'm enjoying this because of its potential, I think is the best thing. It is a de facto Civil War film. It's that Captain America, de facto, like, we're getting a bit of action, we get a bit of intrigue, espionage. It's very by the numbers to this point, which, as you said, it was going to be the first. So you could see this is how they kind of slightly kind of bring people in, you know what I mean? It's that kind of, hey, you like Captain America and that type of films, here's a 9-hour, 8-hour version of that spread out over X amount of weeks. But the potential of the themes and the topics it's going to discuss, so systemic racism, potentially redacted history, potentially the what if the world, if you had a world without borders, like, is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? All these potentially, like, it's not going to be your clear-cut villain again. And that was one of the best parts of kind of Civil War, which was Zemo was not a normal villain. Like, he just wanted these people, like, he tore them down from the inside and made them fight each other. He wasn't the one he wasn't your Red Skull. Nothing against Red Skull, but he wasn't that type. It grew and evolved. And that's what I think this show is doing, which is we've had under 2 hours of this, and it's growing and evolving. It's giving you the basic activities, but it's starting to see these larger questions of, like, okay, Bucky the only way Bucky feels he can survive is if, thrive is if Sam survives and thrives.
Right.
And is that codependence, all these amazing. So yes, I completely defend this episode.
Excellent. We didn't actually call out that they mentioned another villain in this episode, sort of. Just quickly put it in here. They did mention the Global Repatriation Council, who were set up by the world's governments to repatriate everybody that snapped back after the blip, right? So they're considered the villain for the Flagsmashers, which we didn't really talk about. It just noticed it there when you were talking about the villains, Chris, in your defend. But an interesting one, once again referring to Sam's statement back in episode 1, if things get better for one group, likely to get worse for another group. I've seen it happen before, so that's what's happening with the Flagsmashers. Things are going pretty well. Then this Global Repatriation Council is set up to bring everybody back and take care of them at the detriment of the people that actually survived through the blip. So, just meant to call that out as another group to watch as we go through the rest of the season.
Yes. And on that note, John, do you defend this episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, I really do. I loved this episode. I'd give it 4.5 androids, aliens, and wizards out of 5.
Nice.
I think, I just love the more personal aspect to this. it still kept the international dimension, this kind of the espionage element. It kept the action around the truck battle. But I love the fact that they tackled head on John Walker here right from the outset and brought him into contact with Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson, both in the field and out of the field. It really gave a nice interaction there. I love that Bucky and Sam have met up and their own issues and things that they need to work through. I just thought it worked really well. I loved the therapy scene with Dr. Rayner. I just thought that was good fun. Yeah. The banter between the two is really on point for me. Absolutely. And I thought the whole thing around Isaiah Bradley was just really superb. I thought it was a great scene in his home.
Absolutely.
It really felt real and properly charged as it should be. So I really, really do defend this episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Looking forward to episode 3. Before we go on to our feedback section, we do have one more thing, as always, to do. It's time for our pub quiz. Let's get down to the pub, John.
Yes, remember, fellow defenders and pub quizzers, that you can send in your answers to each question at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. You send it in weekly or all at once, in groups as you want to. But the question for episode 2 is, in what year did Isaiah Bradley and the Winter Soldier first meet?
Very good. Very good. What specific year, right?
Yes, specific year, a year.
Yeah, very good.
So
what's the question again, John?
It is, in what year did Isaiah Bradley and the Winter Soldier first meet?
If you want to catch up on any of our questions, you can go over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. We've got a page up there. I think it's called FAWS quiz, or you can just click the button for Falcon and Winter Soldier quiz. I pop up the questions after I've released the episodes each week. I'd love to have everybody send in their answers for the pub quiz this time. We don't have a giveaway for the feedback section this time, just those 3 Funko Pops of Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Baron Zemo for the winner of the pub quiz this time around.
Yes. I think with that, let us get back into our feedback section where we're covering both episodes 1 and 2 in this. So great amount of feedback from the fellow defenders. And first off, we have a voicemail in from Matt Murdick.
Hello, guys. This is Matt from across the pond. I can't see you all the way over there, but hopefully you can hear my voice. Anyway, I've commented several times for the WandaVision stuff, and you guys have been very gracious in including my tweets. When Falcon and Winter Soldier came on, I just had to comment, and I'm not going to get to comment on any of the podcasts that we do over here regarding the music for this, so I just thought I'd send this real quick MP3. You have no idea how ecstatic that I am that Henry Jackman is doing the score for this. I never looked at IMDb. I had no idea who was doing the score for this. But by golly, if you're going to pay any kind of tribute to Captain America in this series at all, then you've got to have Henry Jackman. His score for Winter Soldier is still, I think, and there's been some great scores. I mean, even this last WandaVision, Christoph Beck did a wonderful job. He's done a wonderful job with Ant-Man and everything. But Henry Jackman's score for Winter Soldier is still my favorite MCU score ever. And it's because of a little snippet of music that we heard right at the end of this particular episode when the new Captain America was being introduced. It sounded a little bit like this. Kind of a poor reproduction with the piano because it's not an orchestra or whatever, but you get the sense of it. That was all over Winter Soldier. That little two-phrase kind of motif was in every great scene that movie had. You think about when they're going on the ship at the beginning, when Cap is trying to get away from S.H.I.E.L.D., once he discovers that there's stuff going on there. There's a lovely piano version of this motif at the end when he's in the water and when Bucky rescues him. It's just one of my favorite melodies. Now, if you don't recognize it from what I just played, think of it more in this context, and I think it'll be a little more recognizable to you. Just an amazing piece of music. And I always like to look at music in several different parts. But one thing I look at is melodic shape, which is how far the notes go up or down or the distance between notes. And one thing that I love about the shape of this particular melody is how it's always reaching for something. It's just like Captain America was always reaching for a higher idea, more pure than everybody else's. So it always starts with a great leap like this. And then, circumstances push it back down. So he has to take a little step. And so he tries again, but it doesn't get quite as high. But he's still gaining ground, and he finds that middle ground right at the end. It's now centered. And that's a great way to add narrative and motive behind a character just by using melodic shape. And then the harmony that is used typically tells us what emotion to feel about that journey. But I'll go off on tangents, so I will let you guys go. I'm just so glad that Henry Jackman is back and that he's doing this series. I can't wait to see what else he pulls. Take care.
Thanks so much for that piece of feedback, Matt. I know Matt is so good with the music on shows. We've mentioned some of the stuff he's covered in the past and on the other TV shows that we've covered as well. I love his way of picking out the melodies that are entered into a show to talk about theme and talk about characters. Really, really interesting. And yeah, Henry Jackman is such a good addition to this TV show to keep that consistency with the melodic themes of Winter Soldier and of Civil War. I think it's such a good choice to make sure that we have the same composer on board for this show. I did get a message from Matt after this episode was released, and he absolutely loved the version of Star-Spangled Man that we got at the beginning of the episode with the marching band. Loved it myself. Thought it was really interesting as well. A really good idea to have this kind of updated version of this wartime theme from the 40s. I thought that was a really cool use of it. But so good to hear your thoughts, Matt. Thanks so much for sending that in.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. That was really cool. Getting those themes and the melodies, and you mentioning about Melodic Shape, and just how it links in with the characters and I guess their intent, what is driving them. So that was absolutely awesome. And yeah, the marching band that was really cool as well. I loved that. Again, where I guess most US high school stadiums are better than some of our football stadiums.
That is the size of our national football stadium. That stadium at the beginning of the episode. Like I know college American football is massive in the States. I totally understand that. There's whole communities that are funded by the amount of people who buy tickets for those events, but it just looks so phenomenally large in comparison to what we have for our national football stadium. So it was a pretty cool scene.
Yes, very much so. This marching band music usually makes me go, yay! Star-Spangled Man makes me go, yay! This combination makes me go, woo!
Double yay.
Double yay, woohoo! It goes from once you have two yays, it automatically becomes a woohoo.
Of course.
So it's the math, see?
I like
two yay plus yay equals woohoo.
I like it.
Matt, thank you so much for that voicemail. I love hearing you break that down.
Yeah, so cool.
I was just sitting here in awe of what you were doing. I'm like, yeah, I wish I could play piano. But like, I love it. You remind me, I hope this means in the best possible way, of Austin Wintory. Very much a well-known video game composer who does that same thing while talking. It reminds me of this. And you're just like, reaches off screen to play the piano. You have some skill.
Absolutely.
That's all I would do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much again, Matt. We got an email in from Jerry on Falcon the Winter Soldier episode 1. He says, hey guys, this episode was a good start. Good action sequences at the beginning. Marvel is doing great story background for life after the blip. How business would be affected if everyone came back. Count on the United States government to mess up the legend of Captain America. The Flagsmashers, mutants, super soldiers, aliens, or all of the above.
Or wizards or androids.
Exactly. Yeah. Jerry says, after WandaVision, I'm not letting my knowledge of comics ruin this show too. Jerry from Niceville. I love this came in obviously last week after the first episode aired, and Jerry has his own top 3 there, the mutants, super soldiers, and aliens. And this episode we find out it's not that, it's androids, aliens, and wizards. Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jerry, for the feedback. Yeah, it's off to a good start indeed. We got another email in from Parthenia Locklear. She says, hey guys, hope all is well and glad to be watching another show with you all. So yeah, let's get to it. A few quick things that stuck out to me from last week. I enjoyed that they showed more of Sam's life and gave us a bit of backstory. I thought his fight scene quality was amazing and truly felt like I was watching a Marvel movie. The only thing I didn't enjoy as much were the scenes between him and his sister. While the situations that they were discussing were very real, the acting part of it did not connect for me. The bank scene, priceless, and I'm glad that someone finally brought up the fact that how superheroes get paid. Because I'm going to be honest, I was wondering how he was going to get a loan as well. Bucky, quick question. Was his arm repaired by Shuri? And I missed this in the last Avenger movie. To be honest, guys, I thought the older guy that he was hanging out with was his neighbor, then just a friend. Never dawned on me that was the father of the man he killed. I am loving his haircut. That's probably not important, but it is. I'm ready for more Bucky. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Parthenia continues, I can't wait to see how they react to the government creating this new Captain America. I was totally shocked. Okay, last thing. How did Sam's sidekick survive being stomped in the face by a powered villain? He should be dead, right? Okay, ta-ta for now, Parthenia. Thanks so much, Parthenia.
Absolutely.
I think I had exactly the same thought about Torres as well and being kicked in the face. You know, I think last week, I did mention that maybe his head would go like a watermelon, and because of the powered villain being involved there. And I am with you as well. I really like the fact that they did ask that question about how do superheroes get paid. It is one of those kind of ones that always come up. So I really like that. So yeah, and to confirm, Bucky's arm was repaired in Wakanda as he went on sabbatical as the White Wolf.
Yeah, there's a moment in a post-credit scene where we visit Wakanda and you see him coming out with no arm, and they're there effectively setting Bucky up with an arm, is what happens.
Yeah,
and
Black Panther brings the arm to him.
Yeah, the next time we meet Bucky then is when he's given the arm by Black Panther, when everybody comes to Wakanda in Infinity War. So it is a really quick moment, I suppose, but having so many characters to deal with in the Avengers movies, it would have been difficult to have it as a big scene, I suppose, that's memorable. But you can see from the actual style of the arm, he used to have the silver arm. Now he's got a black one with the kind of, gold running through it, which is a Wakanda, type of structure. So it is a different type, and it is definitely a Shuri creation. She's pretty cool with those arms.
It's vibranium, 100% vibranium.
100% vibranium. Hey, they've got it just lying around over there.
It's interesting you said it's not as, they couldn't spend too much time, but everyone remembers, get this man a shield.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That's it. It could be, get this man an arm.
That's all they would have needed, just a line from Chadwick Boseman, and everybody would remember it.
Yes.
Thanks so much for your feedback, Perthadia.
Yes, thank you so much for thanking you for that. Okay, gentlemen, time we move on over to Facebook. We got our first bit of Facebook feedback for episode 1 was from Ronaldo, who went, "Wow, what a way to return to the Cap aspect of the MCU. Can easily see how this was meant to kick off the Disney Plus show and start the new era. It hits the ground running. Opening sequence for Falcon, just visceral and mind-blowing. I was very happy to see Batroc the Leaper, and Mackie's comment about plenty of cameos already seems fulfilled. Hope we see Batroc again. I love that the Flagsmashers are part of this. As comic fans know, the Flagsmashers are akin to Ultimatum, and Flagsmasher is an actual character who leads them. Wondering if the superpowered leader of the Flagsmashers is indeed meant to be Flagsmasher himself. We'll have to wait and see."
Yeah. So you were talking about that earlier on, Chris. That is very similar from the comics. Yeah.
Yes. Ray goes on to say the character development of both Bucky and Sam make the core of this episode and are both done really well. Sam's familial woes and Bucky's hidden trauma make both of these characters bigger than what they were in the first 4 phases. It breaks my heart that Bucky killed his friend's son, and I'll be watching to see how Bucky will handle this and grow as a person. I really like Sam in this episode, and his humour is welcome relief at times. The blip again has fallout and is well utilised in Sam's story with his sister. Finally, the reveal already of a US agent, this surprised me, but I actually like how they're getting straight to it. There probably won't be enough time in the season to delve into John Walker's past, but with any luck, there'll be time down the line. Already looking forward to his inevitable run-in with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A nifty cameo by Don Cheadle as well leaves me with a solid 4.5 out of 5 Red Wings for this first episode.
Excellent. I guess in this episode we got half a Red Wing, didn't we? When he got broken in half.
We certainly did.
That's 2 halves. So you can create 4.5 Red Wings now. Really good points, Ray. And I think a lot of that has borne out in the second episode. We've had the run-in, we've had the introduction of US Agent in more detail. So yeah, really good. Thanks, Ray.
Yes, thank you so much, Ray. Really appreciate the feedback.
Heather Wallace says, I've been looking forward to this and I wasn't disappointed. I loved seeing the range of Sam's wings. We've only seen him fly in fairly straightforward ways, but here the wings were a shield and supported balletic aerial moves. Sam's speech at the Smithsonian shield donation was moving and wry about Steve's stoic pose, and I cheered when he said, we need women and men to be heroes. It seems a small change, but women are so usually second in that context. The whole scene felt very real. I work in museums and have arranged a few celebrity donations. I held my breath when the Smithsonian official took Cap's shield until I saw his archival appropriate white cotton gloves. I also really liked the glimpse into the economic reality of this world, although I'm still confused about how the Avengers get paid. But my biggest question is, what was Bucky's online dating profile like? Excellent, Heather. I'm really glad when they do that kind of stuff in shows where they specifically treat something the way it would be treated in the real world, like Cap Shield being put into that container in the Smithsonian. That's a really good catch there. But yeah, Bucky's online dating profile. I presume he didn't have any tigers in it anyway.
No, I guess it will be all broody and emo like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking
simmering
off into the distance.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, it'll all be black and white photos.
Of course.
Yes.
But with like redacted long hair, like him killing someone, and this is blurry slightly off. It's like my time in China, my time in Berlin, my time in Moscow, and it's all just slightly like taken from afar with a telescopic lens as he runs in the dark.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. Michael Booth says, while this was fun, I wouldn't say I'm hooked. Apart from the admittedly amazing Falcon fight scene in the beginning, this just felt like generic MCU world building. It was nice to see some glimpses into post-Thanos Avenger life, but nothing really said to me, I can't wait to see what happens next week. Perhaps they are banking on the fact that it's standard MCU fare to reel viewers in over the first few weeks. But compared to the very real gripping tension in the first episode of WandaVision, I felt this fell a bit flat. Having said that, I'll still be back for next week though. Michael also said, I rewatched the museum scene with Rhodey at the beginning a few times. Couldn't work it out if Cheadle was walking stiffly or if it was my imagination. But either way, he's got some fine robotics hidden under that dress uniform. Yes, he certainly does after being pummeled into the ground by gravity in Civil War, for sure. And it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you compare, this to, WandaVision. I mean, it is very different. Yeah. It's not trying to, do it through the mirror of sitcoms. It is, the espionage, but I think this is something that is going to link in nicely, and I think there'll be the elements, as you say, of world building, but also those relationships between Sam Wilson and Bucky that we've discussed in this episode. And I think Zemo as potential big bad. He's a shifty character, and I guess there could be a lot of nice surprises, with his character, just because, his rationale in Civil War, I loved. I loved that.
But you can certainly see why WandaVision came out first and this came out later. This second episode in, and we've visited 4 or 5 countries now in just 2 episodes. So this was totally globe spanning type thing. That was supposed to be the big thing that reeled you in, whereas WandaVision being filmed in a studio for the most part is supposed to be the thing that reeled you into that it's a much more of a magic based show. So I can totally see, in the same way that, a James Bond movie is reeling you in with the action being set traveling around the world, and a Transformers movie is reeling you in because of the CGI. That's kind of the big difference between those two types of approaches here. So as I said, I was wondering whether we just got a bit spoiled by having something like WandaVision being up first, but this absolutely would have been something that I would have tuned into every week if it had been the first show on Disney Plus. Just to Michael's point there that he mentioned about Rhodey, I do wonder about this. Like, there have been a few people that have commented about this, that where Rhodey is walking differently, or is walking as if he doesn't have robotics underneath his suit keeping him up. I wonder, is it a mistake? MCU don't tend to make these kind of mistakes. Or is it simply the fact that he didn't snap away and he's had 5 extra years to have perfected better robotics? I wonder, are they specifically saying that and they may call it out in dialogue in the future, or they're hoping we'll just accept it that would be the case. 5 more years have passed. Not everybody got snapped away. Of course, he would have some more improvements into his ability to walk than he did before the snap.
Yeah, the guilt Tony had probably meant that while he was away with Pepper, he probably was creating a better exo-walking skeleton kind of robotic braces for Rhodey. So I can see that. And also, again, comic books, it's probably it could be extremis.
It might be.
It could be. They literally could have done multiple things. I'd say, unless it's directly called out, you're right. Kevin Feige and MCU don't typically make mistakes.
Not in that, on that kind of character level, I suppose. And as well, if we haven't had a call out yet, remember, Rhodey's got his own show coming up. He's got Armor Wars coming up in about a year's time. So, or maybe a little longer. But if we don't have an explanation now, that's probably going to be where we'll see an explanation.
Yes.
Thanks so much for that, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Richard Blaze says, wow, I love this. Felt very much like it wanted to ground the characters with their backstories rather than just have them turn up for a fight, as they do to a degree in the movies. Actually made me really care about their families and tragedies. I know it won't last, and at some point the action will be cranked up to 11, but really impressed with how this started and can't wait for next week. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard. I'd argue that it's already at 11. It's just going to be a solid 11 across the board when it comes to action. We also got some feedback from Jeff Childs, who said this: I love the opening action sequence. Great effects. Edge of your seat action. I don't like that Sam gave up the shield. Cap specifically picked him. Felt like spitting in Cap's eye. When they introduced the new Captain America, my daughters were particularly unhappy because, quote unquote, he's ugly. It was a good start, but I need Bucky and Sam together real soon. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm sorry to Kurt Russell's son, or Goldie Hawn's son. He's ugly, apparently. I heard this too. Everyone was very unhappy. Let's just say the helmet was not flattering.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Wyatt Russell is a very good looking guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a very attractive guy. When he doesn't have the helmet on, he's, proper blonde, blue haired American, stereotypical kind of looks, very pumped kind of guy.
Exactly.
When he's got the helmet on, it's like as if they went in the costuming and put on the helmet and went, yeah, that squishes your face down enough to make you look ugly.
That's it. It felt like a corset for his head where they just kept pulling on the ties to squish his head, because it kind of didn't look right. But again, you're also just comparing it to Steve Rogers where it fitted like a glove. I think in this episode, it definitely looks better, actually.
I'm very happy that, when he's sitting down at the Good Morning America interview, he takes the mask off very quickly, and you kind of go, okay, ground. It is the mask that's doing that to him,
But even in the mask, I felt it looked better than that final scene, for sure. And as well, Jeff, I think your wish has been granted. Bucky and Sam together again, with their snide remarks and banter. And a bit of bromance.
Absolutely.
So thanks again, Jeff. Sandy Resendez also says, I got a bad vibe from Torres and I wanted to punch the guy in Cap's uniform. I already don't like him. Overall, I really liked it. It's good that they are exploring each of these characters' storylines and what life is like for them now, as well as consequences of all that has happened. I love that Marvel is doing this. Absolutely. I think that background, in the real world post blip is really, really good.
Absolutely.
I guess as well, to your point, Sandy, most people that saw, the guy in Cap's uniform pretty much had an aversion. And I think that's probably the point here, because it's not Steve Rogers who we've had 10 years with. Interesting you got a bad vibe from Torres. I kind of didn't. I think maybe the only time I did was not until I understood that he was on Intel when he went to help out the Flagsmashers, in Switzerland. Yeah. And I thought, I was like, he's actually part of the Flagsmashers. And then you see him doing his phone, and I was like, and then obviously it plays out with him getting beaten up by them. But it was only in that initial moment where I kind of thought, maybe Torres isn't, the person, that I thought he was, from the start of that. Yeah. But, we see him again in episode 2 here, helping Sam prepare for the mission to Germany. So, again, I hope we see more of him, really kind of liking that.
Yeah. Hopefully he grows on you, Sandy, as the episodes go on. A bit of feedback from Robbie O'Neill, my brother, who says, really enjoyed the first episode, seeing how the other half of life is lived for a hero. Looking forward to the next one. See, since myself and Robbie can't actually meet up in real life, he has to comment on our podcast and send us some feedback for us to have a discussion about these shows. So good to hear from you, Robbie. Thanks. Salima Kisler says, I enjoyed this, but not as much as I thought I would just yet. It really does look fantastic. The opening Falcon battle and with Winter Soldier nightmare sequences were very beautifully shot. Disney Plus really is indulging their inner John Hammond in these Marvel TV shows, and I love it. Spare no expense is what I think Salim is referring to there with the John Hammond from Jurassic World or Jurassic Park. Very good, Salim. This was a decent setup episode, says Salim, but as setup is only as good as the payoff, so I'm looking forward to getting into the heart of the story. I never thought I would see Batroc again, nor did I expect to see Rhodey, so both of these were very pleasant surprises. On the flip side of that coin, we did not get Sharon Carter this episode, or Zemo. I get that Sam basically didn't exist for 5 years, but I'm really confused about how the Avengers supported themselves pre-Thanos. Did Tony just pay for everything they need, including food, clothing, and their personal items while they're active? Do they get a spending money allowance for social activities and hobbies? Is there a retirement plan? Who funded Cap, Widow, and Falcon while they were on the run between Civil War and Infinity War? Were they robbing banks just to make ends meet? Without hurting anyone, of course. Sam's being paid by the US military now, right? Is that what he meant by government contracting, or is just more goodwill? All of that is to say the lone scene felt clunky to me, so I'm hoping they flesh that out. As I understand it, the events of Marvel Netflix shows never happened, but the first time the Flagsmashers logo popped up on Torres, I was thinking this was going to be an offshoot of The Hand.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
Very good, Selena. Very interesting. The Netflix shows did happen. They just happened in a very small kind of pocket world of New York. They're not no longer MCU. They are still in the MCU, but as we remember from watching them, there was only very small connections into those shows. I really hope that they do have some kind of connection in the future, but I know Feige has said that he doesn't expect people to go off and watch these TV shows on another streaming service in order to connect them into hopefully the future appearances of Daredevil. But I'd like to have, if we do get Charlie Cox back as Daredevil, I'd like to have some kind of reference to the fact that he did have a pre-existing history and then move on with it rather than ignoring it or writing it out of canon, I suppose.
Agreed. Very much so. It'd be interesting to see how and when if they do bring in Charlie Cox and the Daredevil in that Defenders realm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't wait. Thank you very much, Salim.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Salim. Thanks for the feedback. We have another voicemail, our second voicemail from episode 1 from Steve Brown.
Hey guys, it's Steve, and I just finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier for the first time, episode 1. I love that opening sequence, a lot of action, and then I guess a lot of story. It was cool to see George St. Pierre back in that role, and I can't wait to watch it again. Can't wait to hear you guys talk about it and kind of break it down and see what format you're going to do this time for this show. But I found it a little bit slow, but maybe on the second watch it'll be better. And I hope they get these guys together pretty quick, because with only 6 episodes, even though they're an hour long, it just seems like if they're all this slow, we're going to lose interest. But of course, that last scene, I couldn't tell who was in the Cap costume, but that's an interesting wrinkle to some of the theories people had about what's going to happen. So, all right, a short one, but I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for the feedback, Steve. Yeah, I think it will build up as the show goes on. You know, we are in setup mode here. We do need to set up all the characters and set up where they all are. But it is the same length of time overall. I think same length roughly of the running time of WandaVision within these 6 episodes of Falcon the Winter Soldier. So I'm sure next week it'll get bigger, and next week after that it'll get even bigger, and then as everything gets revealed. But it's been fun so far. Hopefully you've enjoyed the second episode a bit more than the first then.
Yes, the building always happens until it explodes at 11. That's a Spinal Tap reference for any of our younger listeners.
Kind of, yes.
Kind of. It turns up to, this one goes up to 11.
Exactly. Let's get on to some emails about episode 2. First up, an email from Chloe who says, "Hello, I just watched the second episode of Falcon the Winter Soldier. The new Captain America is the worst hero. It makes me miss the real one, even though Captain America wasn't my favorite hero. But besides that, I've enjoyed listening to your podcast because I'm a kid. And all the Marvel podcasts are just people saying the F word more than actually talking about the movie, or end up talking about a totally different movie and swearing some more. This is a really great podcast. I'm always looking forward to listening to it. Can't wait for more." From Chloe. Thanks so much, Chloe.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chloe, for the feedback. It's great to get your email through. Yeah. And yeah, I guess the new Captain America is a bit of a jar from Steve Rogers and from the previous version. And I think you're right. He wasn't my favorite hero either.
He's my favorite hero. Not John's. John's is Doctor Strange. And Chris is Spider-Man. So, yeah, Captain America is my favorite. Yeah.
Yes, I twip. John spells. He goes ABC, and then Derek just runs around with a shield on his back
I
like
punch
a
people
turtle.
in the face pretty often. Yeah,
whilst also
true,
pretending
it's true.
to be Nick Fury.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Chloe. Really good to hear from you. I know we do have a podcast for all ages, just like these shows are for all ages. I always do find it weird when there's a show that will curse constantly about a TV show that's made for all ages. I just do find it weird. I know we have the opposite problem on our show where we cover shows that curse a lot and we can't curse at all on the podcast, but I'm really glad we were able to bring in a much broader audience for our podcast, and anybody that watches the shows is able to listen to the podcast. So thanks so much for listening, Chloe.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chloe. Jerry also sent in an email. Jerry says, "Hey guys, second episode was great. Awesome Marvel movie action with truck scene, lots of grey areas with Flagsmashers, people who return from the blip referred as refugees, and there are hundreds of these refugee camps. Marvel is making you think about race and police, the haves and the have-nots, very complicated social themes. Is John Walker a super soldier? John Walker, Captain America, more like John Walker, Captain A-hole. Keep up the good work, Jerry in Niceville." Yeah, it is kind of one of those things. You see him with the shield, hitting his targets. You see him with that self-reflection in the locker room. You see him helping, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then it's that final moment where he's like, "Stay out of my way." You know, it comes down to, I guess, high school politics, you know, or locker room politics. And so, yeah, it kind of slips for John Walker over the course of this episode for sure. And you're right. The themes that they're looking at, certainly, yeah, with the refugees, the haves and the have-nots, and the race and police stuff is really well done in this episode. So thanks, Jerry, for the feedback.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jerry.
Yes, we have our third piece of email feedback from Eric Carl. "I love this show. The therapy bail scene had me laughing and cringing simultaneously. I'm psyched that the show has the ability to take a longer dive into the characters' interrelationships. I do have a question that comes from Infinity War, though. Is there a comics-based answer to Bucky's gun? I know you guys aren't experts in current firearms, but I was wondering if he has a special weapons or ammo in the comics. In Wakanda, he'd fire thousands of rounds. If the answer is, this is a comic book movie, not John Wick, that's fine. But I was curious if it ever is addressed on the page. Finally, why is everyone making a big deal of the holster on Walker's uniform? Cap's original MCU costume had a holster in the first Avenger, not to mention the missile-launching motorcycle. Just curious. Thanks for the great work, Eric." Thanks for the feedback, Eric. I'll take this one because just in terms of the Bucky's gun, no. Yes, it's more along the lines of it's comic books. He has in the past had kind of alien Guardian of the Galaxy styled weapons that are kind of self-feeding type of ones, but more it's comic books. He can shoot for hours.
Kind of. Comics in general, they don't really address people having to reload unless it's part of the drama.
Yes.
That's kind of it. And because it's panel by panel in comic books, you would make the assumption that they're reloading in between panels unless it is drama. But the way his actual character description would be written is that he's a munitions expert. That's the kind of character that he is. He really knows his weaponry, really knows the best tool to bring on each job, I suppose, is the way you'd see it. But he doesn't have a specific signature gun. Like someone like Nick Fury has a very signature gun that he would use on a regular basis. He is just an expert with all types of explosives, all types of weapons to get the job done. But it's never really talked about him having a weapon that holds hundreds of bullets or something like that.
Wouldn't it be really interesting if, his arm was the clip for the machine gun, and then he would have loads of arms around his waist belt that he would just sort of take off and then put back on.
Well, surely the arm filled with bullets, maybe.
That's what I mean, a clip.
But rather than having to throw away the arm afterwards, it's
but
vibranium.
His arm is a clip.
Yes, so essentially Winter Soldier's iconic piece is his arm. That's basically where we come from.
Yeah, and his ability to assassinate anybody in any situation.
Yes, and he's an
nice
assassin.
Jibe from Sam in this episode, wasn't it? Like, we're not going in there that way. Bucky, we're not assassins. And then assassin Bucky walks away as Sam goes, I'm only joking. Come back, you know? Nice little jab at his past 60 years of assassination work.
Yes. And then I'm going to hand over to Derek for this final question.
On why people are freaking out about Cap having a gun. I suppose it's one of those things that comes up quite regularly. It's the similar thing about Batman not killing anybody. Steve doesn't need a gun. Is kind of the point. He is a super soldier who has the shield. He's a defensive fighter. He's a very powerful fighter. He just doesn't need a weapon. He absolutely has used a weapon in the comic books, as well. But I think the distinction, once again, like we talked about in this episode, the distinction between, Captain America, Steve Rogers, and, John Walker is John Walker needs a gun. He's a highly trained soldier who happens to carry a shield, as opposed to a super soldier with superpowers who doesn't need a gun. That's the kind of differentiation between the two. So when people saw it, and when Chris, you're the one that pointed it out to us on the podcast, when people see the holster on the side, it's considered a distinction between Steve Rogers and him.
But Eric's also right that in the first Avenger, Captain America had the gun. I guess he's still in the army, so I guess it's army issue. Mm-hmm. It's as he moves to the Avengers, and he separates himself more from the chain of command of the army, that he no longer carries it. He decides that, I guess the shield and his brute strength, is enough.
Yeah. I think that was a choice of the director for First Avenger, because he chose that Steve wouldn't use the shield in the cool ways that they actually used it in the later movies.
But it was also a different shield to begin with. It was the kind of more crest shield rather than the round one, which I guess wouldn't fly through the air quite as well.
It certainly wouldn't, but it would probably go through.
It would just stick in the people.
Exactly. Thanks so much for that, Eric. Victor Sellers says, Hail, Derek, John, and Chris, and fellow defenders. A few questions. Who is creating the evil super soldiers? Why are Sam and Bucky exempt from the Sokovia Accords? There are many references to Doctor Strange, wizards, and the Big Three in this episode. Is this all feeding into the multiverse of madness, or are we already there? As always, looking forward to your next podcast. P.S. My compliments on your Herculean coverage of Invincible. Excelsior, Victor Von Doom. Thanks so much, Victor. Victor, I know, was one of our listeners who was really interested in Invincible. So, the TV show that myself and Chris are covering on Amazon Prime. So, delighted that you've been enjoying the coverage so far.
Yes. Invincible.
Absolutely. To answer some of the questions, Sam and Bucky exempt from the Sokovia Accords. That's a really interesting question. It hasn't really been addressed, but it feels like that snap, or the blip, as they're calling it in there, having 5 years away and losing so many people, there may have been some other consideration on the Sokovia Accords. I know we had a moment where, Rhodey, who was upholding the Sokovia Accords, kind of went against them when all of the heroes came back together. He kind of pushed back and said we're not going to enforce this. We need everybody, to fight back here. Sam, we know from these episodes, is now working for the government. So if you're working in a registered hero, you're not exempt from the Sokovia Accords. You're actually complying with the Sokovia Accords. Why Bucky's able to just join Sam without signing a document saying he is now abiding by them, I don't really know, but
Pearl.
Potentially, yeah. He is known to the government as well. Yeah, that's right. He's given his, he's saying now, I am Bucky Barnes. I'm no longer the Winter Soldier. Yeah. So potentially that is him agreeing and abiding by the Sokovia Accords.
And John Walker calls him an asset that can't be wasted. So maybe they're just saying, well, he was in the US Army to begin with, and now that we've corrected his mind that he's still part of the US Army, I guess. But I knew I had the same kind of thought, how can he just get on board the plane? But maybe just Sam allowed him as well, for sure.
Very much. Yeah, he's allowed.
Yeah, he's all right as well.
Exactly.
And of course, yes, great reference to Doctor Strange and wizards and the Big Three in this episode. But I mean, I suppose there may be some feed into the multiverse of madness, not as direct, but I guess it's all heading in that direction of travel. So I guess that's part of the sort of name drop for multiverse of madness is, directly referencing Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. And actually, if you think that WandaVision would have come out after her, then with Agatha saying Sorcerer Supreme without referencing Dr. Stephen Strange, I guess it ties in around that. But certainly the universe that they are in seems pretty mad with all the changes.
But it is the central MCU right now.
Yes,
we're not in the multiverse unless they do that as their version of It Was All a Dream. That was just another multiverse kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be a rug pull. That would be a rug pull. Thanks so much, Victor, for the feedback. Really good. Back to Facebook for episode 2. And first up, it is Ray again. Ray says, another solid episode, and I like the intro to John Walker. Just a guy trying to do the best he can with a world of expectations on his shoulders. Great to see Lamar Hoskins also as Battlestar. He features heavily in the Gruenwald-penned Cap series, and he and John make a great team. John's played with more sympathy here than in the comics, which I like. US Agent is such a brash, uncouth character, but Wyatt Russell does well to instill some likability. Yeah, absolutely agree. I think that opening scene, just the fact that he can think about it, self-reflect, in itself really lends you to think what he's going through, and I think that's really good. Ray continues, big takeaway for me is the mention of the power broker, the guy who is hunting the super soldiers for the serum that I assume they've stolen from him. Isaiah is a great addition. I'm not sure if he's indeed from the comics, but the idea of a predecessor to Steve, but one who had been hard done by society is intriguing. Very cool to end on Zemo for this episode. I just wanted it to keep going. Absolutely. I think we all wanted to see Zemo utter a few words for sure. And Isaiah is from the comics, Isaiah Bradley.
But not a predecessor to Steve who took on the mantle while Steve was frozen. Yeah,
definitely. But the name is in the comics as well. Finally, Ray says, some funny moments between the two leads too. I can't help but feel Bucky has been watered down a bit from his days as a ruthless assassin and has become a bit more comical. It'd be great to see him as formidable as he was in The Winter Soldier, but I guess going against a group of super soldiers would be hard for anyone. Really enjoying the production and story for this series. Thanks so much, Ray, for that feedback. Yeah, now you mention it, I think, I feel Bucky would be able to hold his own a lot more, with those super soldiers, but I wonder whether it's something to do with, when he says to Isaiah that I'm no longer a killer. So, he's not decked out with his knives and his weaponry like he used to be. So, and I guess having been pardoned, you can understand why that's not allowed, given the rules that he's got to follow. So, it's interesting, but I think we might see him, tool up a bit more over the course of this series.
We will, but the central part of Winter Soldier's character is that he's the most efficient killer because they've extracted his humanity from him. He has no feeling, no humanity to him when he's the murdering robot that is the Winter Soldier, effectively. He's now got that back instilled in him. So he has been softened, of course, because he's got his humanity back.
I'm human.
Exactly.
Next up, we've got some feedback from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. Well, I didn't see this episode coming. Cap isn't quite the pointless front I thought he would be. The villains maybe aren't so villainous, and we are continuing with the not-so-subtle exploration of systemic racism in America. Yes, definitely all of those points are true.
Yeah. I know you say not so subtle, but I love that they've incorporated it this way. Some realistic experiences of people that live in the US, being incorporated this way again. The show written back in 2019, most of it filmed, towards the end of 2019 before everything shut down for production and COVID. And then it came back towards the end of the year to finish off. Yeah. So it's quite interesting that it's been quite a long time in production.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also the element mentioned previously in the feedback about the haves and the have-nots as well, that systemic notion of, the haves and have-nots and through the post-blip refugee element as well. Yeah. It's kind of, another dimension I think that is being layered into this Marvel world, before it fractures into multis.
Well, exactly, before it goes into the new multiverse, absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Dr. Bob. Brandy Elise Anderson says, last episode, 2 things that stuck out to me were hints that Sam not being able to fully trust the US government or be supported by them, and some racial undertones. This episode solidifies them both for me. Firstly, Sam and the government. As soon as Sam mentioned that every time he got Red Wing back, there were issues, my ears pricked up. While it could be explained away with Tony's tech being too advanced, that just felt more important than that. And that no one besides Rhodey seemed to have an issue with Sam not taking up the Captain America mantle. I definitely was not surprised to hear that they were tracking Red Wing and therefore Sam, and not telling Sam about the new Captain America is a jerk move. This continues with the theme of Captain America learning to stop blindly trusting the government. Really good point, Brandy. Brandy also says the racial undertones in the show. While Sam may be an Avenger, he is still a black man who faces racial biases and microaggressions. Besides the fact they even know Sam has proven himself to be a hero, not only as an Avenger, but also as a parajumper for the Air Force. But no one outside of the Avengers seems to even acknowledge the possibility that he's qualified. When he donates Cap's shield, he was told that he was doing the right thing, that this was a good idea, and the guy who told him that turned around and gave it to someone else. Someone who doesn't have the experience that Sam has, even with the history in the US military. Then we can look at the fact that at the bank, the loan officer at first guessed that Sam is a basketball player, and that is a problematic assumption. This episode, we saw some other things come up as well. Obviously, there's the racial profiling that happens with the cops when they're in Baltimore, but besides that, you also get to see when the young boy says, oh, it's Black Falcon. This drives home that so often people of color don't get to be heroes without their race being a factor. Then to immediately see Isaiah, who is the Black Captain America, and his history ties into those same racial undertones, shows while there has been a change, it's not eliminated. I think it's even a notable microaggression when John Walker says he's Captain America and can he be the wingman? No, he could be Captain America. It really reminded me something of the Doctor said in episode 3 of WandaVision, where he says to Monica she could be a nurse rather than a doctor. Just really interesting points, Brandy. That is the whole thing. We believe that things are getting better over time. And I like that they incorporate this in Marvel shows. The reference that you're talking about in episode 3 of WandaVision, that reference is a 50s or 60s doctor saying to a woman that there's no possibility you could be a doctor, instantly saying you could be a nurse though, even though she's making all the right moves. Finally, Brandy says, also, not to go down to the predictions and theories rabbit hole of WandaVision proportion, but I love seeing Isaiah in this episode, and that also leads me to believe the boy who answered the door is Eli, who will become the Patriot and is a member of the Young Avengers. Just love that they're setting up characters in Young Avengers in a very creative way. We're not sitting here and building them the same way we built the Avengers. That's such a good point. And Chris, you called it out in your notes about Eli, but it's such a good point, building these characters up in these small ways throughout the seasons of all of the shows and movies is a really good idea.
Exactly. We know Kastelein is coming because we saw her in the Endgame. She's been aged up to the teenager and she was recast. So all of the Young Avengers are slowly coming, and they're just kind of being dropped, and they'll kind of be explored more in upcoming, kind of shows.
Well, what do we always say about Marvel? They love having options, and they've put loads of options on the table for themselves already.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks so much, Brandy, for the feedback.
Great thoughts.
Richard Blaze on episode 2 says, I've got to say it again. I totally loved this. Felt that the episode had everything. Action, drama, comedy, tenderness. The dynamic between Sam and Bucky is brilliant. Always going to have those comic elements, but they can switch to seriousness instantly. New Cap, I'm finding hugely arrogant, but suppose it's part of the point. I could happily smack him in the square jaw repeatedly, and I'm more a lover than a fighter, but for him, I'd make an exception. Intrigued to see where the super soldier story now goes, and hope we get a few flashbacks to show previous ones in action. My only gripe is a personal one. I absolutely hate Injustice, and the scene when the police pulled up and were aggressive to Sam whilst asking Bucky if he was fine and not bothered full on made my blood boil, as unfortunately that happens. Anyways, back to the show. I want to say this is better than WandaVision. I know 2 different concepts, but so far this is winning. Thanks so much, Richard, for that. I think, the new Cap certainly, goes on a journey in this episode. I mean, I think the arrogance at the start, certainly he's very confident, but also being put in front of the camera, he's got to be that kind of very confident, borderline arrogant, person as well in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But certainly, he really does kind of, go a bit school kid with his comments to Bucky and Sam outside the police station there in Baltimore when they don't come on board his personal sort of hype train, I guess. And certainly, it is, really important one, I think, with everything that happens to Sam and Bucky there on the streets of Baltimore, as well as in the home of Isaiah as well. So good stuff.
What I also like about the filming of that scene is everybody in that neighborhood in the suburb is out in their gardens looking on at Bucky and Sam as Sam is being harassed by the police. And you can tell that they're all looking at them going, these guys were just having a normal fight. You were kind of waiting. If that hadn't been resolved, you were kind of waiting for those people to hop their fences and go after the police, to be honest, because they could all see the injustice that was happening there. I thought it was a really good way of filming that scene. Thanks so much, Richard.
Yes, thank you so much for that feedback. We also have some feedback from Lisa Richardson, who said, I love how the showrunner is not hiding from the racial issues. Last week we hated the new Cap, and now this week we see that he has a sympathetic backstory, a black wife, and a black best friend. We know that heel turn will be especially juicy. I also love the anger from Isaiah Bradley. It's uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. So much has been hidden that now needs to be seen and addressed. I love it. Yeah, exactly. That uncomfortable scene is built for that tension, and that kind of, even the camera angle choice makes you go, oof.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lisa. Michael Booth says, 11 minutes in, and I guess that answers the question from last week about whether or not Bucky is enhanced beyond his arm. 200 foot in the air, no parachute required. Absolutely. Overall, I thought this was a much more interesting episode than last week, with some good story development. New Cap seems like his heart is in the right place, but is much more someone has to do the dirty work kind of guy with an ego to match than Steve's protect the innocent worldview. I can't see him wielding meow meow anytime soon. Absolutely, Michael. Absolutely. And I wonder how he plays with kittens. Also, the interplay between Sam and Buck seems weird. I feel like they are going for a buddy cop routine, but without the camp that is present in the best example of those. The writers seem to want these guys to be serious, slightly damaged heroes, but also jokey buddies, and I'm finding it a bit dissonant at times. Yeah, I think I can see what you're saying there, Michael, for sure. I know there's elements where, and it not necessarily between the two of them, but where Bucky is saying to Isaiah, I'm not an assassin, yet is quick to get on board to sort of beat down the Flagsmashers here on top of the truck. I guess it seems slightly at odds. I'm loving the banter and I'm liking the balance, but I think the balance could get out of sync really quickly. So I understand kind of the concern that you're saying, I think, because I guess as we move to Zemo and to the real intentions behind the Flagsmashers and the Power Broker, it will get more serious. I mean, at its heart, it is an espionage type movie in TV form. So you're right. I think it is a balancing act that they have to play for sure. I would love to see Campy though as well in this. I think that could be quite good.
Maybe, but like Sam is the quippy kind of hero and Buck is the kind of stoic straight man that it's funny to poke fun at is kind of where you see with the two of those characters. So, we've only seen the two of them together for this episode here. So, I'm wondering if they just keep that kind of dynamic between the two of them. I think it works really well, but for the two of them, to be honest. Thanks so much, Michael. Angie Arhus says, I am really loving this show. So well written, addressing complex issues, but still making us laugh as well. The military therapist has to be one of my favorite minor characters of all time. She's great. Really can handle her therapy sessions with Bucky. It's really good.
Yeah, completely agree, Angie.
Thanks so much, Angie.
Go, Dr. Rayner.
Great feedback, as always. We got 2 voicemails to close out our feedback section for this episode. First up, we have a voicemail from Ryan.
How you doing, guys? Ryan here. Just wanted to give a quick review of my thoughts. Episode 1 and 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Once again, I am sitting there just thinking, how have they managed to do this again? We had one division where we were dealing with mental health and grief, I suppose, and loss. And now we're going into this series where we're going to be dealing with race and, what the government, how the government have treated Sam in the past and how they're going to treat him in the future. It is amazing how they are pulling at all these different strings whilst you're watching a superhero program. I'm loving the fact that people who don't like superhero programs would say, "Oh, that's too babyish, or that's for kids." No way. These are not for kids. Considering Sam dropped the S-bomb about 2 or 3 times in this episode. So me, I've got a potty mouth. I'm not bothered. But for other people and for Disney Plus viewers, I was not surprised, but I was like, okay, they're going there. So all in all, guys, there's too much to cover in one voice note that I never get done in time. I am overly happy with what we've got. I can't wait for next week's episode. And I'm just glad that we've got this Marvel TV weekly program at the moment that we've wanted for years. So yeah, long may it continue. Speak to you soon, guys. Take care.
Yes, absolutely. Long may it continue indeed, Ryan. I think these shows are great for the dimensions, that they bring to the wider world, wider issues, as well as, within the story to the arcs of the character. Really good.
Yeah, I love getting weekly shows to be able to delve into the deeper things you can't possibly treat in a movie that's 2 hours long, especially something like, Endgame and Infinity War having to deal with, 200 characters on screen, also giving everybody backstories is difficult. So being able to just take a bit of a slower look and delve into the backstory of characters in a more real world environment, I think is always great, isn't it?
100%. Just giving it that flesh out time is brilliant. And we had the S-bombs. Glad you're a potty mouth. And also not bothered. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like us. But we're pretty good at keeping our potty mouths silent when we're on podcasts as well.
There's a lot of editing by you.
Thanks so much once again, Ryan. Great to hear from you. Final piece of feedback from Steve Brown.
Hey, John, Derek, and Chris, it's Steve, and this is for second episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Just finished watching it for the first time, and I think, again, just like last week, I think it's going to take me multiple viewings to really I liked it, I enjoyed it. It furthered the story and gave us a lot of answers, but gave us more questions, obviously, and we do get a mention of the Power Broker, and that was cool. I don't know that from the comics, so it's going to be interesting to see that play out. And I'm this Wyatt Russell playing the new Captain America, this John Walker, is a little different. I'm not sure. He says he's not enhanced, but I thought you had to be enhanced in order to be able to throw and use the shield or be able to catch it or something. I thought there was something about that, but maybe I could be misremembering that. And, he was beaten pretty easily by the super soldiers, you would think. But even Bucky was, really. So, maybe these super soldiers are a little bit better. I don't know. It's an interesting, but he did have a kind of a turn, to the mean. Like, it really seemed like he was trying to get along. And then when he realized it wasn't going to happen, he had this little twist to his character. So it's going to be interesting to see him going forward. Okay. Can't wait to hear your guys' discussion of this one. talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve, for the voicemail. Yeah, I think New Cap certainly went spoil brat on everyone right at the end, sort of throwing his toy shield out of the cot there. Yeah, I guess, we've had that a few times now about Bucky maybe not being quite as an effective soldier or an assassin as previously. I guess he did a lot of chilling in Wakanda. Plus, as I think Derek has mentioned previously, it's the idea that he was stripped of his humanity. Yeah. He was this killing machine.
He was mind controlled.
And mind controlled. Yeah. And that has, been, worked on by the good people of, Wakanda, to wipe that programming. And I guess, Shuri is phenomenal. I mean, she was mapping Vision's, sort of, existence effectively. Exactly. So she's pretty clever. Pretty good. But I think we'll see him tool up for good reasons as we move through, because certainly, yes, I think Falcon needs him to be fully effective.
Yeah, when we have Bucky the White Wolf coming later on in the series, it'll just be called Falcon and the White Wolf. That'd be cool. Just one thing about the handling of the shield by John Walker. I was just thinking about it there when I heard your voicemail, Steve. I wonder if they're just really trying to set up that other people can use the shield, that it isn't something that a super enhanced person like Captain America has to be the one that can use the shield. I wonder if they're just trying to set it up by saying, if you have enough training, you could do these moves. If you spend all day every day, like a golfer, if you spend all day every day practicing, you'll get better at golf. If you spend all day every day throwing the shield around, you'll get better at throwing the shield around. You don't have to be superpowered. It's just setting it up so that you can have someone like Sam Wilson take it on in future, or Bucky take it on in future.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, whilst Tony Stark has move to the next realm, then Stark Industries still persists, and all that technology is still out there in the world. Yeah. And I get, we were talking about the shield sticking to his back, even Steve Rogers, that, that certainly he could have plate magnets in his forearm, and it's more a magnet thing rather than, I was thinking it was, the ye olde straps, I guess, the Spartans had. So, there's loads of different things, but certainly, you were kind of like going, he's pretty proficient there, with that shield, but we didn't get to see the outtakes, and the black eyes.
Exactly.
I think there was a line, I think the line you're remembering is that it's from Winter Soldier, where a person catches Cap's shield one-handed, and that's what the line, and I think it's essentially that, which is, Bucky, because he's enhanced with a bionic arm, he catches Cap's shield at full force, one-handed, and stops it. Whereas you'll see with Cap or the new Cap, John Walker, and with, we're assuming when Sam is throwing it, the two of them will catch it like two-handed, kind of, you saw from the PR, it was a two-handed catch. Versus
didn't even notice it. I was just so focused on the bouncing off targets and returning of the shield more than anything else. I hadn't caught it. Didn't even notice that, Chris. I will definitely take a look at it next week. Dude. Thank you so much to all of our fellow defenders who've been sending us in feedback for our episodes. Really good to hear from you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the news, but we have absolutely no time to talk about it. But just the news of the move of Black Widow out of the theaters from May. We're now getting it in later in the year, in July, I think. And then Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings has moved to September, both potentially available at home as well as in theaters as well, which is great since things aren't opening up as fast as everybody thought. But it does mean we're going to have a little bit of a gap in our schedule in May that we hoped was going to be filled by a trip to the cinema to see Black Widow. But I'm so happy that we do actually have an announced date when we will definitely see Black Widow. No problem. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. Fellow defenders, remember you can support the podcast by subscribing on any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. We are on Facebook and Twitter, and of course you can come to us through email for feedback, which is at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And you can also support the podcast through our Patreon at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, because supporting the podcast and sharing the podcast is sharing the love. So thank you to all our fellow defenders for supporting the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much, because also through your patronage, we are able to keep our illustrious editor / producer Derek in caffeine, because this is going to be a long one and he's editing. Yes, we'll be back next week for Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3, which will air on Disney Plus next Friday, the 2nd of April, and we'll be talking about it on the Saturday, so make sure you get your feedback in. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. That's our Marvel show. We've also got our DC show, which is Pennyworth, coming out every week. We're on to episode 8 of Pennyworth season 2 of 10. So not very many episodes left of our DC podcast. And now, as of this week, as we mentioned earlier on, we have an Image podcast ongoing with our coverage of Invincible over on Amazon Prime as well every week. So Marvel, DC, Image, anywhere else? Anybody else want to send us some TV shows that we can watch from other creators?
Well, we'll have to do it in 5 minutes. I guess.
Yes, we're running out of time with all the editing as well as all the production to do, but always good to talk about great TV shows. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, fellow defenders, for joining in with our discussion of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Cannot wait to speak to you again and next time. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep defending. Bye.
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 I hear a lot of people saying the blues, but I'm gonna tell you what the blues is.